Welcome back to part 3 of the Final Fantasy XVI Spoilercast. We're at the finish line, we're almost done discussing the story, we just have a few chapters left and a long discussion about how the game handles Jill. We'll also actually talk about other parts of the game like our thoughts on the gameplay and combat. So if you'd like to hear more about those, then stick around. Now onto the main show. Everyone escapes to inside. Ultima appears over to inside and casts a spell that I believe is called Primogenesis. Essentially, what this just does is puts the world into a chaos state. Skies get dark. Ether floods start popping up all over the place, and people start turning Akashic faster all over the place. And the blight of the land also starts spreading faster. It's just chaos world for the last chunk of the game.
This is your world changing moment, like Meteor coming in 7, or the
World of Darkness in 6.
Yeah, literally everything being destroyed in 6. Yeah, this is basically just that.
Yeah, and
then it turns everything a really shitty purple.
I do not like the filter they put on everything, and it's like the hideaway is the best looking area, and it doesn't look good.
Yeah,
that's filter.
My biggest problem with this is that it changes the skybox to always be this sort of sad pink sort of hue, and it changes the theme for every single area into this sort of sad piano, and it makes because the game starts vomiting side quests at you every time you take a break and go back to the hideout. For this part as well, so it makes like all of your running around doing side quests is all scored to basically the same track, and
it's monotonous, it's repetitive.
It really starts to drag.
I like the color purple, and I still just didn't really like how much they used it in this section.
It was at this point where I was like, look, I know that because I was playing with my older brother, watching me, because he would have been pissed as fuck if I played without him. He's like, look, I'm getting tired of having to pause and do these side quests, especially at this point in the game. So just play the game without me, do the side quests. I don't really care anymore.
Yeah,
it really goes on. But we do get a fun scene that shows us that Barnabas is into a little bit of everything.
I was about to skip over this just to get a move on, but sure, let's go into this.
We don't need to get into it. We just need to say he's talking with Ultima, yada yada, blah blah blah.
But while he's talking with Ultima, he's turning into Benedicta, then he's turning into Hugo, then he turns into himself, like actual Ultima. And then
he turns into his mother, and I remember seeing that scene, and I remember immediately hopping on Discord in the spoiler chat and going, "Look, I understand mommy issues. That's not."
This is turning into Oedipus complex.
It's also the only scene in the game where this comes up at all, so it's just like, yep, okay, cool. Barnabas is weird.
I remember reading into the
mommy issues.
I remember reading to the lore about this in the Tomes book. It's like, oh yeah, they were part of this old religion and his mom was killed. And it's just like, that does not explain this.
Yeah. And then, everything is apparently bad. So let's go and do side quests in all of the major zones.
Yeah, we get a few hours where we have to go check in on Martha's Rest and deal with Akashic there, then go into Dalmacia and then go into Sandbreak.
Also, now I think about it, did we even mention like the Veil in the Dame?
I don't think so. I think I might have accidentally skipped over her.
Northreach happens. The Dame is a character. Moving on.
Yeah, honestly, we could have done the same thing with Martha's Rest, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just did with
but I like Martha more than the Dame, so she gets attention.
There's some interesting quests there, though.
There are.
Oh, sure.
The things around Northreach are really good, and we can touch on those if we decide to touch on side quests when we're wrapped up with story, because holy shit, there's some fucked up stuff the first time you go to Northreach. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Remembered that side quest with the little girl.
Yeah. after helping out all
Yeah, we'll
the
talk
three
about
areas.
that. Chloe.
Yeah, we might as well touch on that one because that one like really sets the tone. But yeah, after helping out everyone, the party, I'm just going to refer to it as the party from now on instead of like breaking down who's where unless it's explicitly taken out of the story. But yeah, the party goes is like, okay, we need to start heading to Canva because Akashica are invading there, and Mid and Byron are all trapped there. And Akashic are running the place down. We need to go save them. On the way there, though, they make a stop at a place called Tabor, which is where the base of the Undying are, and where Joshua essentially just meets up with Yote to tell her to fuck off.
He's like, hey, Yote, I know that we've been companions for like years, over a decade now at this point, but
I have
I met my
Clive to
brother,
talk to now.
and you can go to hell. Goodbye.
And
And
also,
she's just like, yeah, okay, cool, thanks.
also in
there is,
Tabor, we get one more look at the mural that we've seen a couple of times throughout the game. It's still
Which is,
wrecked.
of course, burnt in the exact same way as the other mural, so we still can't see what it is.
Yeah, all we ever see from these murals is the figure at the top that looks like a black angel.
Which is weird, because like, it's not even that big of a deal that we would if we saw that mural early.
It's not. But the thing that's like, it's like, that's, contender. It's like, Clive, wrong brother. Joshua kisses Yote on the head. It's like, all right, look, take care. Go protect the hideout while I have fun with my brother. Bye.
I got promoted to the main party, bitch. I'm out of here.
No longer wearing rags and having to hide my face for 30 minutes of the story. Yeah,
So yeah, clear through there and get to Canva.
Yeah, so you get to Canva, fight your way through, well, you first meet up with Gav, Mid, and Byron and see, they're all safe, and they think that there's people that are still alive.
We need to go save everyone in the city of Canver. Who's alive? Just the three we care about. Literally everyone else is dead.
Yeah.
That's that's a thing. All right.
Yeah, they set up that, like, there's people that are locked away in their houses, and there's still possible survivors, so they have this dungeon where you go through half of Canva to try and find people, and then as you're making your way through go Shinki.
Technically, there were survivors. They just got slaughtered right at the beginning.
Yeah,
true.
And,
That's true.
yeah, and as you're making your way through,
Showing off one
the
of
dungeon,
Odin's really sick things, Barbas just walks into the room. It's like, oh god, they're all complaining. Just pulls the sword, just everyone just drops dead. There's blood everywhere. It's like, all right, that was really cool. Zantetsuken is such a cool skill.
Yeah, Zantetsuken's great. Yeah, and so yeah, you go through the dungeon and people are still dying in the streets and in their houses as you're going through. You can't actually save anyone. And
I quite like this one for the tone of like everything is falling apart.
Yeah,
I don't know why specifically this one, considering there's basically a dungeon for nearly every major city that in a state of chaos. But this one in particular, I don't know. It just really feels like, this is like
this one you're on an actual
hopeless
mission to try and save people, and you just keep showing up just a little too late to all of them.
I think this one just kind of sells that you have lost this one, and I appreciate that. I always like it when the main
no one is
characters have a
alive
loss
aside from the three you heard about.
Yeah, and so at the end of the dungeon, you have your boss fight with Sleipnir, who pulls out Gungir, I think is a spear name.
Oh wait, hang on. Before we talk about Sleipnir's boss fight, it's like you show up and Byron's like, "Oh my god, you guys, it's just us three. We'll hold up in the Enterprise." And then it's just like, "Hey, who is that?" "Hey, Uncle Byron, it's me. You didn't lose either of your nephews."
Yeah,
and it's not as touching. It's not as touching as with Clive because there are more important things to do. To be fair, but it's still just like Byron, selling how whenever there's a scene and Byron's there, Byron's the best character. And that's saying something because Gav is also in that scene and he's a good character.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, the only way the scene could have been better is if Sid had been in it.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you mentioned earlier that that Joshua kisses Yote on the head, and we also mentioned that he kind of ignores Jill. He meets Mid and gets down on one knee, grabs her hand, and goes to kiss her hand, and Mid immediately pulls away.
She's like, "Sim behavior, get off."
Man, yeah, what the hell is up with Joshua's priorities in this game?
Mid's cute.
He's Jill. It's a sister figure. Yote, I know her too long. Mid, see, that's young enough. I can go with this.
And yeah, after all of that, they also have Byron just come out of the corner, seeing Joshua, and then like embracing his second alive nephew. And it's sweet. But we don't get as much time as we did with him meeting Clive, so it's not as emotionally impactful. It's just a sweet moment.
And now
He's
back
also
to
had
Sleipnir
time
and
to
Gungnir.
process. Yeah, and then we have a cool boss fight.
Yeah, and again, these basically dominant fights are always great. This fight with Sleipnir I like a lot. He pulls out a lot of cool attacks in this one.
And speaking of Sleipnir and Gungnir, it's here after we beat Sleipnir, whose design once he puts on the helmet is fantastic. It's like, oh, that's not really a person. That's just Odin summoning like his horse to just. That's just Odin summoning someone with his icon powers. And then it's like, oh, he can make a clone army. All this is in trouble. And Gungnir is just one of Odin's weapons they just gave to his horse, because why would he bother with Gungnir when he has the Zantetsuken?
Yeah,
and then Barnabas
we had a
shows
little
up.
bit of this earlier with Garuda summoning a couple of things as well. So
Yeah,
like,
and it's never brought up again until this.
Yeah,
Which I guess, connection, right? Because she was working with Barnabas for God knows how long.
Yeah,
That's
and
a good point.
there's also a tome book that mentions these. They're called Eggies in the game. It just says that any dominant can make an Eggie, and it is just we only ever see Garuda and Barnabas do these.
Yeah, and then it's like Barnabas like, all right, guys, all right, Mythos, I gotta break your will down because there's nothing my black blade can't cut. And then he charges up you have to break your shield. And I remember it's like, okay, limit break, Titan Fist, Mega Flare, I'm out of limit. And he's like halfway, oh, I'm supposed to lose this fight. And then he just cuts like every muscle from every bone in your body, and Clive just falls down.
Yeah, and apparently has just like severed every important nerve connection in his entire body.
I don't think it was every nerve connection. It was like they just cut. Yeah, it's like
nothing.
Look,
nothing fatal. Nothing he
look,
can't recover from in a couple of.
You're a dominant.
hours rest.
You're not gonna die from this, but I'm gonna cut every muscle off your bone, and then.
When Barnabas was told to break all of his bonds, he thought that meant the bonds between his bones.
Yeah, it's like bonds. So like those things that touch your bones, got it. Not that.
Sever the bonds of consciousness. Right. So cut his brainstem.
Maybe.
But yeah, so while Clive is out, Joshua grabs him, and Jill.
What happens?
Jill turns into Shiva.
0 for 3.
And then Barnabas swings his sword, it zooms in on Shiva's eye, and we cut to black.
So this is the last fight Shiva appears in. And
ambiguous ending until I give us the resolution. You do not get to cut the score
total
until
score,
I tell you.
End game. Shiva has won 0 fights that she has participated in and lost every fight that she has participated in.
Hold
GG,
on,
Shiva.
there's still a chance. There's still a chance. So after the fade to black, we wake up in the Ironworks where Clive is recovering. He gets up and everyone's just like, "Hey, you're a little worse for wear. Don't move too much." But he's like, "No, I need to get up. I need to go save Jill," which confirms it's a loss. It's 0 for 4 now.
And also, what like Clive just gets like, how long has it been? How is he recovered
it was
already?
like a few days or something.
And in that time, Jill has been captured and they're on a ship and they're leaving. And it's like, we need to catch up to them. Their ship is the fastest known ship in the world.
Yeah, but they're a sailboat ship, right? We have fucking like engines, bro.
Before we get the engine boat,
per hour, we're traveling.
But then,
before we get the engine boat, yeah, I know where Kaiser's going with this. When Clive wakes up, we have to do another mini mid quest.
Oh my god, I forgot.
Where we have to return to the hideaway, which is in the center of Valisphere, grab a piece from the orchestration roll, and then go back to Twinside to finish the boat.
Oh my god.
Is that all that goes there, or do you have to gather some crap from somewhere as well?
No, that's all there is there, but there's also side quests you can do.
There's also side quests you can do with some crap, and you get the little mini Enterprise ship, and it's like, oh my god.
The trip from Canva to the hideaway and back could theoretically be a multiple days long trip, because you have to literally cross an entire country to get there.
What the hell are you talking about, multiple day trip? We have the teleport stones. It literally just took us the 30 minutes.
My God, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do mention those things, and so they are a canon thing.
Wait, but
I
there is
don't
the
know
one
what
at
they
the
do
hideaway.
canon-wise.
Is there?
There is.
The Already Stone? Does that count?
Don't think so. It doesn't
I'ma
function
count
in
it.
the same way. But the law reason for the fast travel points is that they are actually they're aether channels. They direct the flow towards the mother crystals.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know why this allows us to use them to teleport, but
Hey, you know what? Final
Marcus.
Fantasy 12 did it better. It's just like, hey, that's a save point, except it's yellow, so use a stone and you can teleport. It's called a teleport stone. Why? Because it's called a teleport stone, idiot.
But yeah, I also want to mention that on the situation map, that by the time this ship battle happens, that the Einherjar has made it to roughly around the coast of Ash. So they've made distance. I guess it's just a multi-day trip, even for the fastest sailboat in the world.
which, like, the sense of scale in this game is very bad because I can run from one end of the country of Sanbreque to the other in about 5 minutes.
Gameplay contrivances. But
yeah, it's just
once
modern games with big worlds do not do scale very well.
Once the Enterprise is put together and up and running, this is when the Sleipnir army shows up, and Clive, Gav, and Byron and Torgal stay behind it to let everyone else
and this is where I thought Byron and Gav were gonna die.
Yeah,
and then they didn't.
they fight off the Sleipnir army, and one by one they're making their way to the back to the Enterprise as it's sailing away until it's just Clive left, and he just manages to get on by the tip of his fingers.
Dumbass should have used Phoenix Shift.
And yeah, seriously. And speaking of Byron, I was like, this is why they called me the Executioner. Oh, wait, it wasn't my axe. I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's right. Byron just like having trouble remembering whether he has a nickname.
And yeah, so we chase down the Einherjar, and Clive jumps onto that ship, but then as the Enterprise pulls away, Barnabas just teleports onto the Enterprise and starts fucking shit up there. So Clive goes and saves Jill, and Joshua is fighting off Barnabas until Barnabas turns into Odin and does a Xanten strike so large that it splits the sea into two. The Enterprise just manages to escape, but the Einherjar
he was misusing the power of the bays.
And the Einherjar gets sent to the bottom of the sea floor, where we have another boss fight with Barnabas, and it's also a forced slew situation. And at this point, I want to also point out that the last two, so DD earlier in the in this conversation mentioned how you finish a boss fight, it does like a zoom in, and then you get like the victory jingle and like a message that's usually like foe slain or foe defeated or something along those lines. The last two has been the Enterprise has escaped, and for this one is Clive bested while the victory fanfare is going. And just those two back to back were like the best comedy bits in the game to me.
No, but what's super cool about Odin when he splits the sea is just like it just curves open and then just stays open for the entire fight, and even afterwards while they're like running halfway through trying to
make
get
no
to Ash.
sense, but I do love it.
Yeah,
it's Antatsuken. It can literally cut anything.
I also I know that this will come up when we get to the Lost, but like this part of the game, this quest is called Through the Maelstrom, and if you've played Final Fantasy XIV, you know that quest means Leviathan, and so far he hadn't shown up in the game at all, and they mentioned that there were 8 icons for the 8 elements and water is unrepresented, and I've just the entire time that this quest is going on while they're on the open ocean, I'm screaming at them to give me Leviathan, and it doesn't happen. There is no Leviathan.
Yeah, they had to let you down easy in a couple of hours from now.
Well, technically, Leviathan is just a big monster, and Titan Lost was like the biggest monster. So, I mean,
like, just this was the time to give us Leviathan. Like, we're on the high seas. The quest is called Through the Maelstrom. Like, I believe that if they did have a plan to have Leviathan in the game before, they probably would have even put him here, but he ain't in the game.
Well, Leviathan couldn't eat mid and take her to the spirit world. So he missed the timeline. He missed his bus. He couldn't eat mid, take her to spirit world, have her come back.
This should have been the moment where Gav awakened as the dominant of Leviathan.
No, because then Clive would have to suck him dry, and it's just like Gav doesn't deserve that. Gav deserves all the power given to him.
I mean, yeah, true. But I mean, other people survived the process and still use their
which we're about to get into. So yeah, when the end with the sea falling back over them, Jill and Clive run all the way to the shores of Ash, where they end up on a beach.
Where Jill does one last useful thing with her icon powers, and that's to make an ice tunnel while they're running away from the literal ocean collapsing on them, which, good job, Jill. That looked really hard.
Yeah, and
like unironically.
And it's also kind of like their signal for the Enterprise to find them.
Should have died though.
But yeah, Clive and Jill spend some time together on this beach. Like they're alone for the rest of the night with Torgal.
And I posted art that where you stole that new emote from.
they have a very tender moment. They like bare their hearts out to each other, and Jill willingly passes over the powers of Shiva onto Clive. Like they and in this conversation as well, you kind of get the impression that Jill. Well, once Jill goes through with this, she's out of the story for the rest of the game. Like she will not be able to fight or prime or anything afterwards. Like they try to make it very clear that she's done. And so she hands it over, and it's a really beautiful like scene in the whole Square Enix makes pretty visuals department. And I like this scene a lot, but it causes a lot of problems around it later on. And
I think it causes a lot of problems now.
It's been causing problems for a while. I see the part where it says, "Okay, now we can talk about Jill." This
is where I bow out and let everyone take over the Jill conversation.
Before we even get to the Jill part, like this scene frustrates me because so much of it is Clive just angsting about nothing. He's like, Jill, I don't even remember exactly what she says, but she says something about like who Clive is, and he's like, so you say, but do you really know me? I'm a monster. I use my power to kill. It's like, seriously, you're doing this now? Like,
it's because I'd need to go over the cutscenes again, but I believe that's because Barnabas has been pushing his buttons for those specific ways, trying to push him into self-doubt.
You're letting the guy with mommy issues lecture you. You already have your own mommy issues.
We don't
ignore him. They cancel each other out.
Clive doesn't know he has mommy issues. We know that.
But he can sense the vibe. It should cancel out.
Beyond that, like, Clive has been doing this for long enough now. Like, he's an actualized character. He should have enough, like, confidence in his own convictions. Like, if he wasn't confident enough in doing what he was doing, why has he been doing it for 5 years?
To get back at Hugo.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah. And then the response to that is Jill panders to his ego, hands him her icon because she don't want it no more. And it is played as a very beautiful thing.
It is played into a way where she is willingly going over. I will, like, even if I can't be with you there physically, I will be with you in spirit and emotion, and Shiva is a part of me, so I will always be a part of you, sort of way.
Yeah,
it sucks. It's not written well.
No, I really don't think it's written well. And it's a nice scene in a vacuum, but with everything else that feeds into it, I just find that it's the final nail in the coffin of Jill.
Yeah, and again, like you just said, in a vacuum, this is a really, really nice and tender scene, and there are multiple things that will become a problem once I start digging into it. Even a cutscene later,
Yeah. And also, before we get right into like wading into all of that, I also just want to say, man, Clive has no game. Like, it took this for him to finally sleep with Jill, or even to finally kiss her. Like, you guys have been hanging out together for 5 years. How have you not gotten together yet?
I don't think it's that he has no game. It's that he didn't allow himself.
Come on, he has no game.
He has no game.
He has been there. Like his game is just him naturally being able to brood there and attract all the women around him. He is pulling all of them with just his natural aura. Is that he does not allow himself to go in for the kill.
Hope. That is pure cope. You are making stuff up.
It's like when, what is it? There's one time when you walk over to ask Vivian's assistance on something, and she's like, "Oh, like, what have I done to deserve you wanting my company again?" He's like, "I don't want your company. I just want your advice." And she's just like, "Wow, smooth, Clive."
Again, she was naturally attracted to him, and he instantly put her down.
Right, exactly. He has no game. The fact that he is ambiently attractive by being a broody guy.
This is not 1999. That is, we have set sail.
It's like, even if his priorities are weird, Joshua knows how to woo a woman better than Clive does.
Yeah, he kisses their forehead and then tells them to fuck off.
Exactly, and that's
no. You say that, but it's not like he was wooing her. She has already been wooed for a long time. That's why she was willing to do that.
also true. And you know, he goes straight for the jugular with mid. Doesn't work.
You're right. He does go straight for the kill with mid, and she pulls back instantly.
Yeah,
well,
like she's smart enough to recognize, but
I mean, it's not like, it's not like Joshua couldn't walk up to some girl he's never met and is like, "Hey, girl, let me suck on them toes."
I mean, close enough with his introduction to mid.
That's exactly why I brought that up.
Anyway, this is a tangent of a tangent.
We're talking about Jill. It's fine. You've been holding us back.
Well,
Torgal.
Jill.
You got to watch all that good stuff.
Torgal's just like, yeah, I'm here.
Poor Torgal. Like, there are so many times in the game where it's just like, and then right at the end of the scene, they just remember to pan over to Torgal to be like, also Torgal.
You know what?
I get that he's a wolf. I get that he's a wolf and he can't have dialogue, but like so much of the game can, like, you can just add "and Torgal" at the end of a story summary.
Why do you think I've been adding him to every time I do a party lineup? Is and Torgal's there?
Yeah. I feel like we've touched on little things with Jill for a lot of it, but I think
can I get my summary of her out of the way before everyone goes for the kill?
I was going to start with my like one sentence summary of her, so go for it.
Yeah, so before everyone else goes for the kill on Jill, I mentioned it with Benedicta, and I'll mention it again here. I think Jill, on paper, is a really good character. Like, she's strong-willed, she's sweet when she needs to be, she's serious when she needs to be. Like, I really like the whole Iron Kingdom section and how she's trying to go on her own. Well, not go on her own for it, but she's taking it really seriously as, like, I need to do this to fight my own demons because Clive did this, fought his demons in the past, and I need to put mine to rest. Whenever she gets to live as a character, she's really good, but then everything about her story-wise outside of the Iron Kingdom isn't the best with her. And
that's
like,
a polite way of saying it.
Yeah, and we get to this point, and it's essentially, okay, she has served her purpose entirely. She has passed Shiva on to Clive. She is exiting the story now, and she'll still get a couple of small cool moments when we get a little later on in this chunk of the story, and there's not much game left. They essentially want to focus on the brothers' relationship for this last chunk of the story. It's just a shame that what should be a really good character gets shafted so hard in the story with very little respect. And yeah, I like her herself, but I don't like what they do with her.
Don't all talk at once.
Yeah, no, because you said, because it's like, okay, Kai, we're just going to let's say, you want to say your one sentence, you let Kai go first. I'll let you go say your one sentence, okay. Then I'll say my little.
All right. In summary, I think Jill is a monument to tell, don't show. almost everything about her character is informed instead of shown to us. She waxes poetic several times about the fact that she feels like she is a monster, that she had to do horrible things in service to the Iron Kingdom, none of which we ever see. None of the trauma of that is ever actually shown in any tangible way. Like, we don't have any her waking up screaming in the night because she has memories of the things that she's done. Like, there's the scene after we meet Byron where they're standing on the docks together and she talks about how she needs to go to the Iron Kingdom to do this because she needs to face her past. What past? All we've ever seen of Jill was when she was a pleasant little child of like 13 years old. Like, she states that she is a monster who has done terrible things, that she closed her heart to other people and became like, you know, a monster again. She likes the word. She says that she became cold. She closed her eyes to the suffering of other people, none of which we are ever shown. She is nothing but a giving and loving sort of person the entire time she is in the party. We never see any tangible knock on of like, she never ignores somebody else. She never acts like, okay, that, like, you know, she never gives us the pragmatism thing of like, nope, we can't spend time on that. Like,
she never, it's like, I understand, like, because Clive does it too. It's like, okay, growing past your suffering and trauma to become, you know, who you used to be or just better, right? But it's like, for Clive, it's like, we see it kind of being pulled out of him by Sid. And then with Jill, it's like, once we get her back and she's healed up from the nurse, it's just like, I guess she got anti-PTSD drugs because Jill's just fine there. Like, the closest thing is like, okay, Jill has her Iron Keep part, and that's a good section. That is like, I can't knock that section, aside from the fact we don't play a Shiva in that section. You know, it's fine. I like it. It does what it needs to, but it's like, so many things about Jill are just not done as well as they should have been, or as well as the game's setting it up. It's like the game's setting up this, and then it's like, okay, now Jill gets to do nothing. Okay, thanks. Or it's like, okay, Jill can't use her Shiva powers because it's killing her, like the Rama powers was killing Sid. Okay, there's no ramifications to that. That's just a thing they say to give it so the writers have an excuse to just ignore Jill now because we have to make room for Joshua joining the story. It's just so many things are like, I hate saying it because a lot of the times when Jill actually talks and has moments to herself, she's a really good character, but it's just like there's such a clear divide of when the game treats her like a good character and when the game treats her like so many other RPGs out there as she's just the woman that makes Clive's character development stronger. That's it. The beach part, it's like Joshua. What we talk later in like I'll spoil it now because fuck it, I'm not gonna go on a tangent around Jill after we getting distracted here about Jill. It's like when Joshua goes to Clive and said, "You motherfucker," and he punches him in the face, and he's like, "You took Jill's Shiva powers," and he's like, "Yeah," and Clive's like, but she said that she was okay with it. It's like, you fucking jackass. She would be okay with anything you would ask of her. That she loves you. That's the whole point. And it's like you took advantage of that, but you're too stupid to realize you were taking advantage of that trust.
No. I want to get into that scene specifically. That was the next one I was going to get into. Is that that scene in particular feels like it was written for a different draft of the game because Joshua goes into it in going, you took, like, you asked her for Shiva and you knew she wouldn't sit back down, but in actuality, Jill just straight up takes the initiative and goes, "I will hand you Shiva." And there's two different things that go on in my mind here, where it's like the one with on the side where you could have like try and fix the Joshua side of it is have it, Clive try to bite back that no, Jill was the one that did it, like handed it over. I didn't really have anything to say in it, but to also fix that side, you need Clive to hesitate. What happens in the beach scene is that Jill says, I will hand over Shiva over to you, and Clive is already sucking Shiva dry out of her while going, are you sure about this? There's like no second guess. He's already like on board with doing it.
He's like, cool, it's been a long time since I had a new dominant power.
Yeah,
my moveset's been getting stale.
And so it's like there's a disconnect between the two scenes where it's like either Clive needed to ask for the power so he could because he feels that he needs Shiva's abilities to take on Barnabas, like he needs to inherit more of the mythos identity to take on Barnabas, or you have to change the scene that comes afterwards with Joshua and Clive, because just both of them together creates this weird disconnect where they're telling very different stories to each other.
Oh, and don't forget the worst part of that scene is like after you punch them and Gav comes back down and is like, hey, what's happened? And Joshua and Clive look at each other like, oh, nothing, just some brotherly spat. And it's just like the way that scene started, it looks like Joshua's going to throw Clive off this fucking cliff.
Yeah,
by the way,
they get over it very quickly.
Joshua's got a nice right hook there.
For real.
He does.
Yeah, for a guy suffering from anime wasting away disease, he has a mean right hook.
He gets over it when the plot needs him to.
He really does.
I think I don't really have much to say about Jill. Jill pretty much said.
Hey, there you go.
Said, because I feel basically the same way. I think Trin said she doesn't like the way she changes after she loses Shiva. Like she's very very timid and like has like no dialogue and just I don't know.
Well, that's one thing about Jill that I wanted to point out is almost any scene where it is not just Clive and Jill has like no dialogue. Like I remember back when you go to infiltrate Drake's head and it's Sid, Clive, and Jill, and Sid and Clive have all of this great back and forth, and then it like cuts over to Jill and she's just sort of like chuckling and watching
in the back.
Yeah. And then like Joshua and Clive and Jill all reunite and Jill's just off to the side, and like just or the scene when they first meet Byron, Jill has like 2 lines in the entire 5-minute scene of Clive reuniting with his uncle. Like I understand that the scene isn't about her, but she really doesn't feel present for most of the story unless it is a one-on-one scene with her and Clive.
You know what's really funny? How it's like, oh, Torgal and Jill are Torgal's like Jill's companion because Torgal always liked Jill more or whatever, right? So they're interconnected. And it's like, yeah, and the story reinforces the scenes by having Jill be ignored just as much as Torgal is in half the fucking scenes that they're together in. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of characters on the screen. Well, Jill and Torgal can't talk, so they're just kind of standing in the background.
She's just like me for real. I also don't want to associate with anyone.
No, it's not lack of trying that Jill's thing. She's just set dressing.
Yeah, she really does feel like set dressing for some.
God, I hate describing her like that because there's so many moments. Not so many, but it's like there are moments that are like, this is a cool character. Now you're just set dressing. God damn it, video games.
Yeah, that's the most frustrating and disappointing element of Jill is that she has all the potential to be a great character, and she is instead mostly just used to stroke Clive's ego. She needs to be rescued by him 3 times in the game. Shiva never wins any of the fights she gets into. Like, she never gets to go. She never gets to develop as a character. Like, once she wakes up in the infirmary right at the start, she's pretty much exactly the same character that she will be at the end of the game.
Yeah, and to Trin's point as well that Shinki mentioned earlier, like, at the very end of the game where all the side quests have opened up, she has kind of like retreated into a shell, sort of like after losing Shiva. She's not exactly freaking out like Benedicta did, but she does seem to have a very long depressive streak because she's lost a part of herself there.
Yeah, and that's not fair, and it's not justified. Like, if throughout the game Jill had regarded Shiva as more of a burden and like begun to actively hate being a dominant, like, and actually showcase some of that, then her giving up Shiva could have been kind of like this actualization moment for her character where she's like, okay,
it would have been the opposite of, it would have reflected Benedicta earlier in the story.
Yeah.
Tying things together.
Kind of would have been like, what is it? I think X-Men 3 or whatever, when Rogue gives up her powers because she's like, no, I want to be more than this power. Like, for Jill to finally decide, like, okay, Shiva has been nothing but grief for me. It's caused me to have to, like, take innocent lives. It slowly kills me as I use it. I don't want it anymore. I will be better without Shiva. Then that would have been awesome. Like, I think that would have been justified.
She's Tifa 2.0, except they don't actualize her character enough. And Tifa's a PS1 character.
Yeah, just... I'm gonna stop there on Jill because I could go all day about this.
Yeah,
but...
and to Jill's credit, a little bit, I feel like there's so much frustration around her because what is there for her is good. Like when she talks and when she's doing anything, really, she's a decent character. It's just the story doesn't give her that chance to be good in the story. She just gets to exist to be good as a character concept.
Anyway, next on this list is Dion waking up and seeing the medicine girl you kept talking about, who is just as important as Yote, except doesn't get named.
Yeah, she like Dion goes back to Twinside and looks over the carnage he's wrought in. He's like, oh god, what the fuck have I done, before collapsing. And then the medicine girl finds him and immediately runs to his aid. And then later on, he'll wake up and he looks over the city, like the destroyed city. Medicine girl's helping him recover, and he's just like, he starts internalizing to himself, like, is this what Ultima can do? And then he's like, no, ultimately this is my responsibility. I should bear the sins of what happens to Twinside, and I need to atone for what happened. And yeah, medicine girl, very sweet girl. She brings him water. She saves him from death's door, and she will be brought up again a little later. But for now, she is the reason why Dion is alive, and Dion sets out to go back and go back and help Joshua. Like he specifically says that the Phoenix will need his wings. And we talked about Joshua punching Clive. So after Joshua punches Clive real good, the party splits up. Joshua goes and investigates a stronghold, while Clive and Gav go wander the rest of Waloed on their own. And while they're on their own,
when you finally get to explore Ash is a really nice zone. Like, the theme is amazing, and I love.
Ash is where the filter really hits, like, a good moment. Like the World of Chaos moments, it really suits Waloed and Ash.
I think going through Ash, and it's so beautifully eerie how, like, quiet it is, and then you see that it's just Akashic and orcs that are roaming the countryside. Like, the whole, it's this game's like World of Darkness sort of moment, I guess, where it's just everything here is bad. It's very, very bad, but it's beautiful in a stark, fucked up kind of way. And I really vibe with that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed just traveling through with this beautiful piano track playing that, like, sneaks in the prelude a little bit there.
Yeah, it's really good. And like 80% of what you explore in Ash, 80% of what you explore in Ash is also blighted and being overrun by monsters or ogres. And and Akashic as well.
I was gonna say that they made the purple Chaos Zone filter just to look good on Ash, and then just slapped it on everyone else. It didn't care how bad it looked.
I genuinely wonder whether that is the case.
Yeah, you could convince me that was the case. But yeah, Odin makes himself known to Clive when Clive and Gav wander into a village, and he traps him into, like, this this half of Waloed. He's like, Ultima is waiting for you at the capital, but I don't think you deserve to meet with Ultima just yet. Come find me at the at this place.
Come on, we have to do a boss fight. Let's go.
Yeah, we must do our boss fight, and you must prove yourself worthy. And I'll just quickly cut to Joshua now, since might as well do it here. Joshua gets to the bottom of the stronghold, and he finds the mural intact. And he starts listing off all of the icons, and to Kaiser.
Turns out the mural is just a mono artwork.
And to Kaiser's utter dismay, he calls out Leviathan by name and also gives it the moniker The Lost, which means that Leviathan will in fact not show up in this game's end game at all.
Ash is where you really start to feel the budget running out.
Yeah, after the beach scene in particular, I feel like the budget is running out. The script isn't as tight because of that Joshua scene. It feels like this last chunk of the game just didn't get as much polish as it could have gotten.
You can it feels like you and they want to just finish the game.
Yeah, it really starts to sort of hit a downhill slope of just like, let's get towards the end now.
And they sure did some crazy stuff and made it to where Gav was Leviathan.
Yeah, and to really hammer in why we feel that way is because we get through the dungeon that leads to the Odin boss fight, and it is just
great dungeon, by the way. Great dungeon.
Oh, don't forget the random pregnant woman that saved everyone because she's pregnant with the bearer or something.
Oh yeah, she was saved.
Gav is like obsessed with.
And Gav is like, all right, cool. It got me. I get to be an uncle, and she's just like, yo, I lost my like whole family. Can you like not?
Yeah,
she doesn't like, say that, but it's just like, Gav, please.
Yeah, it's a little weird how quickly he's just like, all right, I get a son or something, and it's like, dude, like,
Gav, you met her like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
I think you walked over her husband's corpse.
Still more game than Clive.
Still more game than Clive.
I was say he may have even killed her husband because I'm pretty sure he became a Kashyyyk.
Yeah, everyone in the village is a Kashyyyk except for her because her child is a bearer, I guess.
It's like killed your husband, so you're single now.
Oh yeah.
The village that Odin originally trapped in has a pregnant woman that Gav stays behind to look after, giving you a reason why Clive is going to the dungeon on his own. And yet, to Kaiser's credit as well, every dungeon that is just the Fallen's ruins, beautiful dungeons.
Isn't her name like Ida or some crap?
Yeah, Edda, I think is her name.
Yeah. Again,
you know what's
Final Fantasy XIV, the name Edda has baggage.
Yeah. So I think it's funny that they gave her a name, but Medicine Girl's still just Medicine Girl. Yeah, she's had more screen time.
Medicine Girl, we do find out her name later. It's not until like the final Tomes update that they drop. By the way, her name is Kahel. Or Kiel, or something along those lines. But yeah, getting through that dungeon, we get into a fight with Odin, and spectacle-wise, it's pretty neat. Like, there's a lot of cool things going on in the fight. They both go in and out of their icon forms throughout the fight, but we never actually get an icon fight with Odin. Instead, we just get probably the best dominant-on-dominant fight in the game.
It is a crazy cool boss fight. Halfway for about the first half of the fight, there's sort of they transform and then untransform, and then I think like they transform again, maybe, or maybe
the second time they transform, Odin extends his blade using Aether, and Ifrit breaks the tip off and then does his own Zantetsuken against Sleipnir, and that really pisses off Odin.
Actually, he doesn't really piss him off. He's like super excited about that. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, I misjudged you, Mythos.
He goes full on like crazy pants about it because he's like, woohoo! I actually get to cut loose for a fight.
Yeah. By the way, that fight is way better the second time around. Using his own weapon against him is epic.
Oh, I bet using the Shadow Blade against him would be a lot of fun. Even using Zantetsuken against him would be a lot of fun.
It is. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I kind of thought what they were going to do with this fight was because, like, I was thinking, after Titan, wow, how the hell are they going to top this? And then they did the Bahamut fight, and it's like, okay, you went to space and fought in the stratosphere while Bahamut tried to annihilate the planet. Like, there is no way you can make an icon fight that is more spectacle than that. And so they don't.
Didn't.
But I
mean, they tried, but not yet.
Well, I thought what they might do then, because the impression that I got partway through, because you transform and then you transform back and then you continue the fight, I thought they were going to do a cool thing where they had the icon and the dominant fights basically be two sides of the same coin, and like at certain HP intervals you just transform and you have a little bit of an icon section, and then you transform back and you'd fight like Odin as Clive for a bit, and then he'd transform back into Barnabas, and then like you transform into Ifrit. I thought it'd be like this cool thing where they're like jumping in and out of their icon forms and then just continuing to fight like semi-primed or something. And it kind of happens that way for like a little bit, and then it turns into sort of a regular dominant fight of Barnabas as semi-primed, and the spectacle, just kind of never really...
They have cool moments where they do touch on what you said, where Barnabas will transform into Odin and he will do a few attacks that you can sneak your own attacks in as Clive and try and fight him off. And there's like this big spectacle moment of, there's this fucking huge knight with a massive sword swinging for the fences against me, and it's cool to dodge those attacks and sneak in your own attacks against them, but they never get further than that.
Yeah, I think the concept could have been taken further, because it's a very cool dominant fight, but it's disappointing as an icon fight. And the coolest part kind of happens like by the halfway mark. Yeah,
and again, this is really leaning into they must have been running out of the budget, because we don't get that real icon fight against Odin to really cap things off after the fight. And just to cap it off as well, that after the fight, Barnabas latches himself onto Clive, forcing him to take in Odin, and that just really cements that, oh no, he's done. We're not getting anything more with Odin here.
And another thing is just like over the course of the game, you've seen Barnabas being just like this lazy warrior king that everyone's like, oh yeah, he was the warrior king who showed up to Ash when he was like 20 and then just killed everybody to place himself as ruler. And he's just this like bored guy, and he's really only following Ultima because, he grew up in a cult with his mother and shit. And then it's just like, as the fight progresses, it's like, he's starting to like wake up and remember, and we're seeing it's like, this was the warrior king that everyone was talking about that showed up and killed everybody. And he's going like, yes, he's basically going like 14 again, Xeno. So it's like, all right, this is what I've been missing for the past like 30 years. I'm basically ending the world because of a midlife crisis, because no one has been strong enough to do this to me.
Yeah, narratively, it's a really cool fight. It just leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to the spectacle side of it, when so many things up to this point have been, the icons are going to be massive spectacle pieces.
To be fair, seeing Bahamut with the fucking Destiny Wings of Light is just like literally nothing this game could throw at me could be cooler than that. After seeing that, it was just over.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. But so we... after that fight's done, just quickly touch on this, is over in the capital of Dhalmekia, Randalar. Byron is there, and he's trying to get one of his associates, Havel, to send an army to go help Clive, and they're being...
This is where I thought he'd die.
Yeah, they're being overrun by Akashic. This man has no army to send to Clive, but Dion shows up and with his dragoons and saves everyone, and Dion makes a promise to Byron that he'll go help Clive, and then he also sends... He gives Terrence a kiss on the head and tells him to leave the story by giving him a sack of gil and saying, go find a medicine girl in Twinside that saved me. I owe her my life. And Terrence kind of like realizes, Dion's on a suicide mission and there's nothing I can do to stop him on this.
Yeah, it's basically Dion going, Terrence, look, we can become parents. We can adopt this daughter that saved my life, and then we can retire in the mountainside. If I come back from my suicide mission, which, judging by the name, probably not.
and then getting back to the main plot, Clive and Joshua start making their way to the capital of Waloed after Gav is like, hey, I'd really like this pregnant woman. I'm gonna stick behind with her for a little while longer. And they just make their way to the Mother Crystal, fighting off more hordes of Akashic, a behemoth, doing everything. Like Ultima's final line of defense is just doing everything they can to keep these two away. And I guess it's like supposed to be a test of strength for Clive at this point. Like, just if you can take all of these out, then I know you're ready, and I'm going to take your body.
Yeah, he's just feeding him fodder.
Yeah,
he's like, here, level up a little bit more before I'm ready to take control.
And throwing a behemoth seems like a bit much in that situation, but Clive takes it out. So yeah, strong body, very strong body to have. And yeah, just as they make it to the gates to the Mother Crystal, more Akashic just show up, making the situation even more dire. And that's when the Enterprise comes through the castle walls. Jill, Dion, and Gav come to the rescue and hold off the Akashic to give Clive, Joshua, and Torgal their moments to go fight Ultima in a different dimension, because as soon as the gates open, Ultima's just standing there and warps everyone to his own little interdimensional rift where he's been sleeping for who knows how long, waiting for this moment to come. And
this is another point of you can see the budget beginning to wane, because there's a bit in the dungeon where you're running through Waloed where they specifically point out the bridge and are like, once we're on that bridge, we're going to be completely exposed, so we're going to need to be quick. And then it just never comes up. It's like, also, you originally intended for us to actually go to that Mother Crystal, right?
Yeah, I'd believe so. And it also comes up because once you finish this interdimensional rift section, the Mother Crystal just implodes on itself.
And speaking of that, now that we're sucked into the void with Ultima, it's like plot dump time. All right, so remember Final Fantasy VII? Think that.
It's time for you to walk slow and get talked at.
Yeah, so this is just the lore dump section. Bullet points of it is that Ultima is an alien life form, came to the planet after, Ultima discovered magic, used the magic so much that it bled their planet dry and blighted the entire thing, so they just kind of escaped and started trying to find another planet, and along the way they shed their physical body and just became like this spirit body that we see the entire game, which is why they look so fucked up. And they're kind of like, they seem to be a hive mind race as well. So they make their way to collective consciousness. That's the one. And eventually they make their way to Valosphere, and they place down the Mother Crystals all over to suck up the ether of the land, and they also plant the seeds of humanity, essentially going, yeah, we created humanity so that one day our perfect vessel would show up and we could take their body for ourselves to give ourselves physical form again. And that's where Clive comes in. After eons of this plan going through, Clive has finally come through, and Ultima is here to claim what's theirs. And
don't forget that humans are supposed to be like consciousless, empty husk, and then they gain consciousness and start doing all the things that cause this story to happen. Yeah.
Humanity was just supposed to be mindless, like what the Akashic are. The Akashic are what Ultima's version of humanity was. And yeah, they just kind of like started becoming self-aware, and that's like the biggest sin to Ultima. Like, humanity wasn't meant to be able to be conscious of their own existence. They were just meant to be mindless until the perfect vessel showed up. And also, a fun thing in this section is that once you get to the final stop of this lore dump, is that above Ultima is a broken down, charred up body of Ifrit, which I guess is supposed to signal that Ultima's original bodies were Ifrit.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. Like, Ifrit is the true form of that species.
Yeah, which would also go into why Clive having Ifrit is able to suck up the powers of everyone else around him. And yeah, so we get like this really cool boss fight where Ultima dons the destroyed body of Ifrit, turning it into like an armor that looks like the image at the top of the mural, like the fallen angel look. Really fun fight, but not a lot to say here. It's just a really long, drawn out fight with Ultima, where he has a shit ton of health. And then after the fight's done, we go back into Clive's Mind Palace again, because Ultima's ready to take him for real this time. And Clive's actually slowly losing himself this time. Like, he's seeing visions of everyone important to him, telling him to succumb to Ultima's will, leave his consciousness behind, and just accept Ultima. But Joshua keeps trying to reach out to him over and over again in this section, and what ends up pulling him back to himself is that fallen phoenix feather from way back when Joshua first saved him. It Clive picks it up out of his shirt pocket, and it transforms into Joshua, and the two combine to fight off Ultima's lingering sentiments within Clive's mind. And on that note is where the Mother Crystal starts getting destroyed, and Ultima makes a retreat, going back to Twinside and drawing in as much ether into the Twinside's location as he can to bring out a final hidden Mother Crystal known as Origin, and just puts it high into the sky, destroying the entirety of Twinside in the process.
Or Medicine Girl and Terrence.
I'd like to believe they survived. But
the Medicine Girl was in Twinside, and the entirety that entire
one more
city
Dion
is
L.
completely leveled.
Yeah. We're never shown what happens to Terrence and Medicine Girl. We only ever get, from here, we get like a mountain of side quests to finish off a lot of loose threads, a lot of character stories, get our final moments with certain people. This is also where I got spoiled on the ending of the game. So I was going through these final moments and being like, oh, there sure are a lot of death flags here. They sure are pointing out this is a suicide mission. I wonder what's going to happen.
To be fair, once we reached, because they're like, oh yeah, Gav's gonna die, Byron's gonna die. We thought they were gonna die when they crashed the boat in again. Dion does the only successful backwards jump that Dragoon has ever done.
Thank you for pointing out that note I wrote down.
So they're all back. It's like, okay, cool. Let me just run around and talk to people. And it's just like, oh, we're dead. Because I didn't know that. And he's like, yeah, Clive is absolutely 100% dead at the end of this game. No shot he lives. No shot.
Yeah, every piece of dialogue from here is just like everyone kind of like...
It's like the Mass Effect 2 suicide mission.
They feign hopefulness that he'll return, but they know that anyone going to Origin is not returning from that mission, which leaves us with just Dion, Clive, and Joshua going on the suicide pacts to Origin.
Dion, it should be noted, despite having Bahamut stolen from him at one point, is still able to access it because, Dominants are still able to access their icons, and Dion, being capable of flight, is like, I'll bear you there because you'll need a flying icon to get there. Jill is nowhere to be seen, despite Shiva being able to fly.
Yeah, and they also try to point out they also try to point out here that if you prime without the icon's power inside you, they're just like, there's a very good chance you'll just lose yourself to this. You'll never come back from it. And Dion's like, yeah, that's a gamble I'm willing to take. Good thing for him he's a hero character, so he doesn't have to deal with that gamble. He'll just get to do it willingly.
And Dion looks and Jill is just like, Jill is bitch made compared to Dion. See, that's what you get for being a woman in a video game.
Also, on the point of these characters being able to fly, it's really funny that in this first section where we get into Origin, we have like this big Bahamut, Ifrit, and Phoenix fighting against Ultima turned into his own version of Ifrit. And the entire time, Ifrit's just being carried by Phoenix. Like, he can't fly on his own, so Phoenix is just holding on to him, dragging him around the entire fight so he can get some hits into Ultima when he can.
That part was kind of weird. Like, you guys know you can just transform together, right?
Yeah, I guess they're saving it. Yeah, a little bit weird.
For what? They're fighting Ultima.
Yeah, that's what I was about to. I was just about to say that they're fighting Ultima. They should be going all out and combining, but I guess I don't even have a guess of why they don't.
I don't know.
I think it's all just to serve as a try disaster moment in this boss fight, which is super cool.
I agree. I do agree that it's all for try disaster.
Yeah, which really cool. Also, I do love, since we're now in the final boss and, you know, Phoenix got royally fucked. It's like, Ultima turns into his Nega Ifrit, and he's like, eat shit, Phoenix, splashes him out of the sky. Clive goes to rescue him. Dion holds him off with the Mega Flare. He counters with the Super Mega Flare. And you see Dion losing, but what's really cool is while he's fighting, he launches like his little mini Mega Flares around the giant beam that's flying, and right as the big beam hits him, and you just hear Alta go say that, oh, and then get completely obliterated by all the.
Yeah, if you hadn't mentioned that, I was. Yeah, just that deadpan, just oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, the delivery of that oh when. It's such a good read. I love that so much. Like, Ultima the entire time has just been deadpan, but it's just that line in particular with the situation just sells it a lot.
Yeah, and then Dion dies.
And Dion dies.
It's also really funny that it's the same exact head wound from when he got his ass beaten the first time.
Thrifty textures.
Yeah, but it's just like, because we're playing, it's like, yeah, that's the same exact head wound.
Yeah, I was sad but not surprised that Dion jumps in, takes the blast Phoenix, and then I don't remember exactly what it is he says, but it's like, I avenged you, Dad, or some shit.
Or have I made you proud, father, or something?
And it's like, your dad was a dickhead. Get over it.
Oh no, the right before he gets hit, he says something like, "I ask not for acceptance, but for forgiveness." I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
it's a really good line to go out on.
I forgot. But yeah, and then he falls and he dies, and it's like, damn.
And that entire fight is
there goes one of the game's best characters.
Sorry, I just saw Shinki's light up. You go and say what you wanted to say.
Oh, I mean, it was just a battle, man. It was all right. Like I said, the whole final part was like basically just them. It was basically just one big quick time event with that final fight. Like, yeah, the try disaster was pretty cool, but that was about it. I like how Dion.
It's definitely more of a cutscene than.
Yeah, I do love Dion. Just like, he doesn't call them by their names. He's just like, yeah, you're Phoenix and you're Ifrit.
yeah. That's. Oh, there's some. I forget when it was. But at some point he's like he's calling everyone by their icon titles, but then someone calls him Bahamut, and he's like, please, it's Dion. And it's to one of the other icons, it's like to Joshua or to Clive, he's like, call me Dion, but he sits there and he'll call everyone else. Like, even in a letter he sends to Clive, he is addressing him as Ifrit. And yeah, so
also Origin, like this, the scene after this, it looks like you're about to begin the Origin dungeon. Origin is not a dungeon.
Origin is just a
series. Origin is a series of boss fights, and that was disappointing because what the hell? It's a Final Fantasy without a final dungeon.
We had the final dungeon. It was against Odin. Actually, no, it wasn't even then. It was the one that led to the interdimensional rift.
It was Stone here. But like, what?
It's not a series of final bosses. It's a fuck ton of QTE events and that cutscenes, then a final boss.
Which, to their credit, it's a very good final boss.
Oh yeah, he's fun.
But yeah, going off that, yeah, we just it's just like a forced walk moment that leads us to the heart of Origin, and Ultima just starts fucking shit up immediately. He drops a lore bomb, an extra lore bomb, that every mother crystal was a body of Ultima that was sent to sleep and became crystallized to suck up the ether for when the time was ready, and he willingly wanted all of them to destroy the mother crystals to free his other bodies, and in doing so was also powering him up the entire time. And through that, the Ultima body that Joshua pulled into himself at the end of Act 1 finally comes out of his body and like absolutely demolishes Joshua's chest.
It was full on chest burster mode from Alien.
Yeah.
When that it's like oh he got a cool scar. Nah, man, what the fuck?
Or just
and at the end you see it's this big gross blue pulsating thing. Ultima shows up. You look back in, and it's just like, that's like the closest 16 got to gore. It's like, it's dark, so it's like shadowed out, but it's just like, if there was a developer who had experienced it, you bet your ass they would have modeled the inside of that dude's chest cavity. There was just a full ass fucking rotisserie chicken sized hole in his chest.
Just I liked the reveal here that it's like, oh, it's not Ultima, it's like Ultima plural, which explains why it's like, because for a long time you've probably been wondering, like, if Joshua sealed him in his heart, why is he still around doing stuff? It's like, oh, because there's more than one of them.
Yeah, and that plays into the whole collective consciousness part. Like, even back in the Iron Kingdom stuff, like when we get to Phoenix Gates, we can just kind of assume that the hooded figure is going to stop appearing, because the first time it was Joshua, the second time it was just Clive's vision of his inner angst and like projecting another person for his guilt. And then Iron Kingdom, we get through the we destroy the Mother Crystal's heart, and as they're escaping, we see a third hooded figure show up, and then they show up again when Titan dies, and that's when we get a reveal of this third one is another body of Ultima, as it's just going through this cycle of every time a Mother Crystal is destroyed, some fucked up shit with Ultima is happening. And yeah, so once Ultima leaps out of Joshua's chest, Clive just goes into a panic, starts holding his brother for dear life, and bawling his eyes out. And all the while he's doing that, all of the Ultima bodies are combining into one, like the Typhons did during that boss fight. And Joshua just gives him a heartfelt goodbye and pushes the Phoenix onto him. And
I thought this was a nice touch as well. The realization that, like, oh, the only icon he hasn't absorbed yet is Phoenix.
Yeah, he was blessed by the Phoenix, but he never got it.
You start with the Phoenix powers, so it just never occurred to me that he still hadn't actually absorbed Phoenix.
Yeah, and the visual of the Phoenix wings coming out of Clive's back is really beautiful. But yeah, and Joshua's like dying message, like, you were my shield, but I realize that you need to be the world's shield, and I'm ready to give you up to go take down Ultima once and for all to be the planet's protector. And yeah, we get into final boss fight time, which again is
fun.
Fun, but I was also going to mention is another boss fight that takes place in Clive's mind palace.
Can't win them all, right?
I think it's neat. I always like the visual that is the inside of Clive's mind. Like, that void chamber is just a really cool looking area. And the more the fight progresses, the more fucked up it gets, and more beautiful the background gets as well. Like, it becomes like, it starts taking on like that cosmos look in the background. But this is where we also start getting into the idea that Kaizer threw around before, where we start the fight as a dominant fight. It's Clive going against Ultima, and it's played pretty straight, but then we get into a Ifrit's Risen versus Ultima Ifrit fight, which is kind of a space battle like the Bahamut fight was, and this is like our actual proper Ifrit versus Ifrit's boss fight that was teased really early on with the Shadow Clive fight.
This is very much the this feels like a Final Fantasy final boss. This is the like Technicolor vomit like space background battle fighting a giant six-winged Ifrit monstrosity.
Fighting your god essentially.
Yeah, this is very much the kill god.
Yeah,
and it's
this case
it's
literally.
cool it's a cool spectacle fight. I quite enjoyed this one as the last icon battle because I think it's probably one of the best designed icon battles because it like no bit of like,
and also because
it actually
gives
has
you all the
mechanics
mechanics.
happening. Yeah,
it gives you all the mechanics that you've learned throughout the game, so you can actually play instead of just mash square half the time. Or it's like mash square and then Titan's gonna hit something, use your sphere. Mash square, oh, he's doing something, fly away with circle. Mash square, it's like, okay, now I actually have to pay attention and like fight this monster.
Yeah, because the only other time we get like a fully powered up Ifrit icon fight is against Bahamut in space. So this is the first time since then that we actually get another icon fight, and this is just where they gloves off. You know everything you can do with Ifrit. Just we're going to design the fight around all of the tools that he has, and then on finishing that, we have one last fight that is just Clive versus Ultima. But this time, every like health point checkpoint, like thresholds, Ultima is cycling through his own like free icon, his free icons that he has at any time. So kind of like mirroring what Clive does, where he can channel free icons at once. Ultima is doing the same thing, where he's got Odin and Bahamut and Shiva. And he'll cycle through those attacks, and then you get him down to a certain health checkpoint. He throws out there 3 big moves, and Clive does a counter. And as he's countering, he's got like this whole "my friends are my power" sort of situation going on, where they have a one-liner to spur him on through the fight. But what's also really cool about this fight to me is that the further along it goes, the weaker Ultima is getting. And by the time you exhaust all of his icon abilities, he's like really slow, really ragged. He's barely able to throw a punch. And it just becomes, the last chunk of his health just becomes a victory lap, essentially. Like you've come this far and you've completely overpowered Ultima for this last little chunk. It feels really good.
Also like that, throughout the course of this battle, Ultima's like monotone starts falling apart as he starts like actually panicking and like freaking out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Clive waxing poetics, like telling Ultima to his face why he's failing, why the power of friendship and forging connections has been his downfall, and Ultima's loneliness is essentially like what is holding him back, and that if he just interacted with humanity and accepted them for what they were, then he wouldn't be in this position. And the entire time, Ultima's just like, no, fuck you, I'm right. And yeah, that panic is really hitting in deep. And again, this is just like one of those general JRPGs always end on my friends are my power moments. But it just feels
very much
like
you lose
the
because power of friendship.
Yeah, but it feels really well done here. Like it's performed really well.
Yeah, I do like how Ultima starts going, no, this isn't fair. It's like the same like emotional like plus I got from seeing Odin go from like stoic to like, yes, this is what I want, to seeing Ultima's confidence, fact go from like, no, you can't be doing this. Wah.
Just God packing a tantrum, basically. And it's always fun when you get a character who's like one of those smarmy, monotone, I don't have any personality, I'm just always in control and everything is fine. And then it's like, as soon as things like he holds it together for like the entire game, even as his plan just like isn't working the way he wanted it to. But then here, as he's actually starting to lose, he starts screaming about how like he is your god and you will worship him and fuck you and fuck everything about you and why isn't this working? God damn it.
Yeah, essentially every step of the way that Ultima has interrupted the plot so far, he has always been like, well, I can always just come back later while I'm still building up my power to become the apex of what I am. And Mirfos isn't fully ready yet, so it doesn't matter if I take his body now, there's always later. This is his actual, like, final stand and final chance to do it, and seeing that Clive is still besting him, it's finally warping him and shattering his illusions.
Yeah, I think this is satisfying. This is a smarmy villain being on the back foot, and it actually feels good to watch that happen.
Yeah, and the final hit is just perfect because it goes into
so stupid anime.
It goes into a final moment where they arena apart. Ultima throws a blast at him. Clive powers up his sword and throws it straight through it, and that shocks Ultima enough to look back at the sword flying by his face before looking forward again. And Clive just rushes and gives him a good punch right to the jaw, and it also gives you the chance to just keep button mashing as his face is warping around, the punch getting stronger as it's going through his face. It's stupid, but it's really good, and it ends on like this punch does 99,999 damage.
I have played Asura's Wrath, yes. How did you know?
Yeah.
The developers have played Asura's Wrath, and I can tell.
Yeah. Sure, Asura's Wrath does that scene a lot better, but it's just like, it's still nice to see that and then their face gets more distorted as they get flowing.
Yeah, I think for my money, it's a little too silly of a note to end on for me, but I can appreciate
Especially for 16, which for the most part is just a very serious story.
It's been a very bleak and tragic story, and then it ends on this silly anime punch. But whatever,
and then after that, Ultima's like final speech to Clive rolls back into just being that bleak tragedy moment where he's like, well, you've won now, what's your plan? And Clive's response is, you know what, we don't really have a plan. And that's kind of the beauty of humanity. We just struggle and keep going until we find our own answers. And Ultima just looks into the sky and is like, that's fucking stupid. I hope you know that you've just delayed the inevitable of humanity's downfall.
Yeah, I like that right there at the end, like, Ultima has like this chance right at the end to be like, well, maybe you're onto something here. And instead he's just like, enjoy eternity on your blackened husk, you stupid idiot.
And then Clive sucks him dry. And that
all the way through, to dust.
Yeah.
To shreds, you say.
And so Clive is now complete. He is the completed form of Ultima now, but he's the one in control instead of Ultima. Yeah, except for Leviathan. Maybe, and this is extreme cope, Ultima had Leviathan in him all along, and he just never pulled it out in the final boss fight.
Sure.
Doubt.
Yeah, super doubt. But, and Clive tries to he tries to use the Phoenix's powers to revive Joshua, and it heals the wound, but we don't see if it actually takes. And then he starts his powers start freaking out. He's like, oh, even with this perfect vessel, Ultima's power is too strong for me. But with the last of my living strength, I'm going to just take down this crystal and put an end to Ultima's plans once and for all. And just he sets himself on fire as he blows up the entirety of Origin and takes out the crystal's heart. And
don't forget that he heals up Joshua's hole in his chest first.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. He tries to revive him and it just heals the hole. We don't see if it actually revived Joshua though. And yeah, we cut to a really beautiful ending where Clive's laying down on a beach and holding out his hand, watching as the last bit of magic leaves his body, and then his hand drops as the curse starts taking over his hand, his fingertips and are becoming stone, and this entire game,
And then
you can just kind of assume that because he is the perfect vessel, he's not going to suffer from the bearer's curse. But now that everything's done, and Ultima's power must have been eating away at him immediately, because he doesn't last long at all after using that power.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he lifts his hand up to the sky. You see his fingertips, and he's like, oh man, I hope I did right. And then his hand falls to the ground, and the camera cuts, and it's already spread to his entire hand of stone now. So it's just like, yeah, he's dead, and all the characters are crying. And his
final,
it's very sad.
His final line, as we see him, is staring up at the moon, pondering if Jill's also looking at the moon.
Yeah, and Dalamud fades out.
Yeah, that's a thing that we never bring up, and it's more of a lore thing that never actually takes into account for the main story. But there's a red star next to the moon the entire game, and it's just the source of magic, I guess.
Yeah, there really isn't much of an explanation for what that is. It winks out here at the end, which implies that it's tied to Ultima in some way, or possibly Clive, but probably Ultima, but I don't know.
Yeah, but doesn't it whenever it shows Jill and she's praying, they refer to it almost as Media?
Media.
It's called Media, but it's just...
Yeah.
Never really explained what that star is or why it winks out here at the end.
Yeah, it's just what we're shown. There's not much with it, but it just kind of infers that maybe this is a source of magic. This is what Ultima, like this is tied to Ultima in some way, and now that it's just used as a symbolic way to show, yeah, no, magic's gone from the world now.
Yeah, and it's also used a lot in Clive and Jill's relationship as this like overarching symbol of that relationship. So it disappearing here is like an indication that, well, that's over.
That's an interesting takeaway that I never thought of.
Yeah, like the moon and prayers to Meteor are like...
Yeah, it's always
it's
to
woven
Meteor.
throughout a lot of their... Yeah, it's woven throughout a lot of their scenes, so...
Yeah, and...
It disappearing here at the end is a very final note for that.
Yeah, there's a few other notes that we can go out on later, but just quickly wrapping up is that Jill looks out into as Edda's giving birth, by the way. She's in the delivery room with Taya, and Gav bursts in when the baby is delivered. But once the baby is delivered, she looks out into the sky and sees Meteor disappear, and she starts bawling her eyes out immediately, runs out of the room, and we also see, and Gavs notices immediately, and he starts bawling his eyes out as well, and it's just like...
Gav, who, by the way, barged his way in to see the baby as soon as possible.
Yeah, and everyone just kind of realizes that the mission's done and no one's coming home, and the final shot of the game is Jill looking over the sunrise as and her tears starting to clear up a little bit, while Torgal is also howling into the sunrise. And it's a really beautiful shot to end the game on. And then we have the post-credits scene.
It's very much one of those, the long night is over and now the dawn.
Yeah. And then we get in... Oh, sorry, you go, DD.
I cannot believe we forgot the fucking line.
Which line?
Like the Ultima's final boss line. So, your stupid thing is nothing but a fantasy. Yeah, well, this thing is about the Final Fantasy or some shit. They say the line.
They separate it, but it's like, Clive says something along the lines of, this is your fantasy and I'm going to make it final, or something along those lines.
It's something so fucking... But once Ultima said final, me and my brothers are like, say the line, Clive, say the line. It's like, but it'll be final.
He says this is your fantasy and I'm going to be its final witness.
It's like, it counts.
It counts, and it's kind of raw.
That's just, it's very silly.
and then to add insults to that, Sai, with the final post-credit scene of the game, we have a couple of brothers running into a house bringing in firewood. One of them trying to ignite, like start the fire up for his mother. And he just kind of talks to himself like, I really wish we could use fire like in our stories about icons. And the mother's like, oh, but the icons are just fairy tales. And then it cuts to a book called Final Fantasy, written by Joshua Rosfield, and then cuts back to the children playing, and they're playing a game about the icons, and their little puppy with them is named after Bahamut, and it's cute and corny and weird. And that book being titled Final Fantasy, written by Joshua Rosfield, raises a lot of questions within the community and does the very, very famous thing Final Fantasies do, where they just leave parts of the ending open to interpretation.
Yeah, I think it's fun that you can draw a few different conclusions there, and people can make their own they can draw their own conclusions about who might have lived through the final battle and what have you, or whether it's somebody's using a pen name or something like that.
I want it to be a pen name.
I'm all in on team. It's Clive and it's his pen name.
No, it can't be Clive. If it's got to be somebody, it's got to be Joshua, because he did use Phoenix to repair something.
How could it be a pen name if it's actually just Joshua, though?
It's not a pen name, it's just Joshua.
I think it's Clive. I think he's just running around one arm now.
I think Clive's dead. I reckon it is Joshua, because I think why would they bother to show Clive having been able to heal the gaping hole in his chest if it didn't mean something?
Yeah.
If he couldn't revive him, then he would have just still been a nasty, opened corpse.
I mean, I can see it as he didn't want his brother's corpse to be that mangled, and he attempted it and it didn't work, but at least his brother's corpse is clean.
I just think when it comes to narrative significance like that, you don't have extraneous details for something like that. But if you're being deliberately ambiguous, you might.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things, there's a lot of side quests that make hints for one way or the other. The theme songs at the end, Jill's theme does a lot of heavy lifting, and then Moon Gazing, the theme of the game, does a lot of heavy lifting, trying to point in the direction that Clive may be alive, but again, it's open to interpretation and people can take away what they want from this. And I think that's pretty
if you need song lyrics to justify your lore stuff, then
when the songs are made specifically for the game, I think it's fair.
I mean, just put it in the game, not in the lyrics of a song, but just in the game.
Speaking of in the game, I loved the ending song that played when everyone is crying, and then it cuts to some Japanese song immediately during the song. And it's couldn't you let that play out? Couldn't you go into the credits like this?
Yeah, that's the back-to-back Jill's theme into the Final Fantasy XVI theme song. I think it's My Star and then Moon Gazing.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff with Moon Gazing and stuff, and the songs maybe having something to do with the ending. It makes sense. The half the lore of the game is in just books in the game. So I mean, most of the story aspects are just through reading. So
I think the game does a pretty good job where a lot of complaints for Final Fantasy XIII are they use all of these proper nouns and they don't explain them very well, where 16 is very aware of that, and whenever they do drop a proper noun, you can either stop the pacing of the cutscene to look at the lore tab, or you can just wait 30 seconds and they will explain what that is.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think 16 is better than a lot of recent Final Fantasy games have been about giving you enough in the core storyline itself to actually understand what the hell is going on throughout the entire course of it. It's amazing that it has taken us nearly a decade of Final Fantasy and only one of them before 16 in that decade has actually been any good at it. So hopefully this is, them getting back on that horse.
Well, we can only hope so. All right, so now that the game's done, these
Yeah.
other discussion points.
The story is all done, and
All right,
Thankfully, I think we hit most of these through.
we
the
did.
story.
I just need to talk about one thing for the gameplay because I promised Samael that I would complain about this shit. So, gameplay. We only have the one fucking combo and with the default sword.
Yeah, I can agree with
yes, we have Rebellion combo A, Stinger, Helm Splitter, and
Aerial Rave.
Yeah, aerial rave and just slam it.
Drive is a special move you get off the Phoenix thing, so you don't even get that in your base move set.
No, I meant like hold square, or it's like where you have not drive.
Okay.
Same thing, and it's like, oh my god!
Not
Like,
just that, but we also have the one weapon the entire time until we get Odin's Shadow Blade, and even then, Odin's Shadow Blade is a very shallow weapon that essentially only exists for you to cast Zantetsuken.
like
Damn,
it's
can you
cool. Its
imagine if
effect
each
is
of the
cool.
different icons were a different weapon?
Yeah, they tease it a little bit because some of Ramu's skills pull out the staff.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so for weapons for Final Fantasy 16, it's like, I understand that they base the game around just having the multiple icons. That's why holding R2, square, triangle gave us the different moves and shit. But it's just like,
It would have been
You know,
nice.
it would have been nice to have more than just weapon. Because what are you doing? The entire fucking game, no exception. Square, triangle, square, triangle, square, triangle, square, triangle.
I'm
It's
gonna have to
like
call
1,
you
2,
out. That's
1, 2,
disgusting. It should be
1,
square
2.
L1, square L1, square L1, square L1.
What does L1 do again?
It's L1. It's the controller configuration I used, where L1 was the magic burst button.
Yeah,
No.
that's what I used too, because that was basically how everybody was playing it, because it made it easier for any kind of comboing or charging magic.
Yeah,
Nah,
if you want to charge
I've-
magic, holding down L1 is more comfortable than having to hold down triangle while using the other half of your thumb to press square.
Square, yeah.
Nah, for me, the timing that it took for my thumb to leave square to triangle was like almost the exact timing it took for that the game wanted for the magic burst. So like,
Yeah, the thing is you couldn't charge both attacks properly. You can actually charge and hold both attacks.
maybe I'll learn that. Maybe I'll figure it out next time. But also another reason it didn't bother me because on the original Devil May Cry 4, you couldn't change your controller layout, so I had to play that fucking thing with the claw, and that was miserable. I did hell in hell on the original PS3 with the claw.
My biggest complaint about the gameplay is, well, I thought the range of battles was pretty shit. Like getting in a fight with an enemy, and all of a sudden they push you out of the battle range, and then they gain all their health back and run all the way back. Shit was annoying as fuck.
Yeah, Trin showed that off a couple of times, and she ran into it a lot more than me, but I did run into that problem a few times.
Shit was that stuff was so annoying, especially when you're about to kill the enemy, and all of a sudden they get out of the battle range, and they're like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
time to
you're
go
still
invincible, run
in the
back."
battlefield,
Only
but they
can't
got
that
pushed
happen
out of the
once.
boundary, so they're like, nah, healed.
Speaking of, how I was like, oh, would have been cool. It's like maybe it's like some dominance could have been an ability, some dominance might have been a weapon, or if you didn't want to do that, just like another thing you constantly had to do was Torgal, right? And it's just like
Torgal's very weird as a gameplay mechanic because
And it's
he,
just
even
like-
when you use him correctly, he does no damage.
He doesn't,
Yeah, it's
but
like-
he's a tool more than a damage
yeah, it's like
thing.
he's a good like combo like thing, but it's just like for the most part, right? Especially during like when I'm not using Mega Flare or like doing other stuff, it's just like I am mashing the Torgal button because like sure, I just do hit it right and Torgal will do the precision stick or the precision whatever the other move is, but it's just like, well, nothing's really stopping me from just hitting the button anyway to get extra damage in. It's shit, but it's extra damage during the staggered state. So I'm just like hitting square triangle, mashing the D-pad, and it's just like, this shit is annoying.
I never actually went that direction of trying to mash the button in the middle of combos. So yeah, I use toggle as a tool when I want to launch an enemy or pull something back to the ground, and I'll use sick. Ravage, or if something gets knocked back, then I'll use sick to keep them in place for a little bit, and that'll keep the combo going better. I like toggle as
absolutely. Oh yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I like toggle as a tool. Essentially, yeah, my issues with the gameplay is what you already hit on, in that it would be nice to have a couple of other combo options, like some pause combos, or just something to extend them out better, or even having the backdraft abilities that Ifrit has, like being able to use Magic Burst into something else as a different combo branch.
A launcher move, that's not toggle. Come on.
There isn't enough diversity in the bread and butter, and I get that you're supposed to lean into the icon powers a little bit more for that, but even then, I really wish the game had loadouts, because playing through on Final Fantasy mode, like, I've got abilities that work, I like them, but I don't want to have to, like, mess around and do a completely different configuration and then figure out how I had it set up before and go back to it, because
it's annoying. That's why I didn't really change mine too much.
No, well, yeah, because I can tell that, like, all of the big end game loadouts are going to be Odin centric, because Zantetsuken is crazy. But it's also like, if you're going to use Odin and go in on using Odin, you really have to, like, Odin moves probably are going to end up dominating like half of your.
There's only two good Odin moves, and that's pretty much what everybody's using right now, and that's Dancing Steel and Rift Slip. Rift Slip makes the game completely different. That particular move, being able to break out of combos or break out of specials, like in mid, like straight up just mid combo, is broken, because people. I did it during my playthrough, used Shiva with it, and I used Cold Snap, and I was able to kill a boss in the first stagger by Rift Slip right into Cold Snap to keep him frozen. Cold Snap actually stops the stagger bar.
Oh yeah, I did that once on Behemoth by accident.
And you can keep doing that. You can keep doing that. I was able to kill an entire boss without him moving.
Yeah, I've seen Trin showed me the Rift Slip, a Cold Snap stuff, and that was insane what you can do with that. I've seen someone get like 13 Zantetsuken in one combo. Like one
it was me thinking I was clever for sticking a lightning rod on a staggered enemy and using Mega Flare. Jeez.
Yeah. And Dancing Still gets way better once you get the items. The I think it's Pool of Darkness, and it makes it to where Zantetsuken. Well, Dancing Still charges Zantetsuken by 50%.
Yeah.
So literally just using it on one enemy will get you Zantetsuken immediately. It's broke.
Yeah, I remember as soon as I saw in New Game Plus that you can combine any duplicate accessories to double their effectiveness, I was like, oh, I immediately remember that Dancing Steel one. It was like, that's going to be insane.
The Pool of Darkness one it's super expensive though, because I think it's like, you can buy it from one of the shops, but it's like 400,000 to buy the first one, and then 400,000. So it literally costs you like close to $1 million to be able to do that kind of damage, but it's definitely worth it.
Hot damn.
Yeah. And that just kind of goes into showing that, like, even with the main bread and butter being a bit weak, all the stuff around the icon abilities really adds depth to the game, I feel. And so I'm not too burned by not having extra weapons or extra combos.
Thank God they let you refund ability points.
Yes.
On abilities.
Really
There's no fucking way I would experiment if I did not have that. I had the accessory on. He's like, oh, you just gain 20% more AP from all non-important fights, and it's like that never left my equipment bar, like ever, and I still was like desperate to level up Dancing Steel.
I just grinded in Canva. If you grind over and over in Canva for a couple hours, you can max out literally everything. I did that for like 2.5 hours and maxed everything out.
Yeah, on my Final Fantasy run at the moment, I've got that on again, and I've upgraded it, so now it's 40% more AP. And
Yeah.
Final Fantasy mode shits out more XP and more AP than the first run does. So
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty comfortably, but I think I'll still need to hit the Canvo grind for a little while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but another thing is like the hunts. They are fine.
I liked the hunts best when I was level 35 and they threw S ranks that were level 50 at me.
The
Agreed.
best fight in that game, because I don't know about, I haven't played FF mode, so I can't really comment on that, but the best fight in 16 is when you're like level 30 something and you unlock the Svarog hunt that's like level 50.
Oh yeah,
which is level
Savrog.
cap.
Yeah.
The fucking best
the
fight
dragon?
that whole game.
Yeah.
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 I was like, oh yeah, I can't beat this thing. It's fucking one-shotting me. I'll just come back like 5 levels later. So I'm like barely 40. And then long, grueling fights. Like, yeah, that was fun. I can't wait to see more S rank fights. And it's like, here's another S rank fight, level 40. And I slapped its head in. All right, cool. Thanks.
The S rank fights in Final Fantasy mode are crazy because like I'm not sure. I can't tell if they level with you or not, but like I fought Atlas the other day, and that dude was like close to level 90.
No shit.
And
That tracks because I think he's about level 40 something.
He's,
And he
I think he's
wrecks.
level
45
50.
or something in the first round.
he
First
wrecks.
playthrough.
Oh yeah, no, he's actually 45, yeah, and in his Farrog, that's 50 on the first playthrough.
It's
Yeah.
like
So if
Atlas,
everything just scales up.
Farrog and the
like
Chimera.
yeah.
It's like 45, 48, 50.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
Atlas
it-
was probably probably my favorite hunt, but Svarog's another very, very good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying. It's like the trials were fine. They were fun little distractions. It's just like, oh, I gotta run out and find this fucking stone. All right.
The trials were good. They do help you appreciate some of the icon abilities you might have slept on.
I thought like with Bahamut, right? I use Bahamut for Mega Flare, and I don't give a shit about anything else, right? But it's like, oh, Bahamut trials, like, okay, these moves are kind of fun. I'm kind of like my damage combo counter is like absurd. This is kind of fun. I'm not going to use it, but I like it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Impulse was pretty good with Willow and Lightning Rod. That shit was pretty broken when I
Yeah.
was using it.
Yeah, that's great. Impulse is great. I also really like Satellite because I did Magic Burst so much, and being able to tack on even extra magic attacks on top of that, and while charging Mega Flare, being able to shoot with the satellites, and even while you're in the middle of animation locks moves, you can still shoot with Satellite. It's a really good tool to have to just keep tacking on more and more damage.
Any other notes on gameplay? What are people's loadouts looking like?
Mine was Shiva with the big status one where she slams the ground twice.
Diamond
Status-
Dust.
Stamina one. That one, Odin, Zantetsuken, Dancing Steel. And I had what the fuck is it? Titan's Fist Punch.
The block
and-
one or just the big wind up?
Just the big wind up.
Oh, yeah.
Because like, stagger, you throw that out real quick, does absurd damage. And the next one I did Garuda, because once you get him at 50, you can use the grapple hook to like pull them down.
Yeah.
And her spinning feet one, not the tornado, the other one. That one does like really good standards. So it's like, they get halfway, you pull them down, run up, do that, and they're already almost stamina broken anyway. So I was like, sure, I know I can go with like Ramu because I hear a lot of people use that, but it's just like, whatever. Maybe on Final Fantasy mode I'll stick around with that because I'm kind of like this thing. Because when it comes to like flying enemies or other enemies that are far away, just throwing out the Delver Bringer to grab enemies is pretty helpful.
I switched around a lot, but like I guess my final one, like I really liked Bahamut just because I enjoyed the Mega Flare and the dodging.
Oh yeah, Mega Flare was another one skill that I had. It was like, their stamina broken. So I basically, whenever I stamina broke them by spamming Shiva's and Garuda's thing. So right when they're about to stamina break, I would use Shiva's thing. So the first hit would break them, then the second would hit them and would put their damage multiplier all the way up to like 1.3 something without it just started. Activate limit cancel the animation of them falling down with limit break, shoot out Mega Flare, and then by that point I had Zantetsuken level 5, so I would hit that right as their stamina bar was about to fill up and get the full 1.5 damage with Zantetsuken while still in limit if I was fast enough.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. All of those kind of combos. I think my end game one was Shiva with Rift Slip and Dancing Steel attached to her because the Rift Snap combo was just too broken. And then I had Phoenix because of the Phoenix shift, just too easy to get to the enemy.
Yeah, that's one other thing that I forgot to bring up. It's like launch move. Oh yeah, sure, Torgal can launch, but you can't jump cancel. So unless you have Phoenix shift, you can't chase after the enemy when you knock them up. So it's like,
yeah, you can dash with Shiva, but it's not all that great. I usually use Shiva for like the Rift Slip combo, or if the enemy was going to attack, I would use it to freeze them.
I always found the timing for that one weird. It's like, oh, I'm dashing into the enemy, and I
got used to it over time.
It's just such a weird timing to get the freeze dodge.
I want to touch on that freeze for a moment. I went into the final boss with Shiva on my toolkit, and in that final section where Ultima is just ragged and you're just styling on him, I got to do extra style points because he did his free punch combo, and for every punch he threw out, I was freezing him on each one and just piling on the damage for him. It felt really good to just put him into the ground even more with that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's see, what did I have on Phoenix? Diamond Dust and Flames of Rebirth. Mainly, this is my end game one. I just went with basically like the ultimates for all of the different icons. The only reason you really do that with that is because of the Rift Slip, because you can just keep them frozen forever. So being able to keep them frozen forever like that, you can just wait for all of your specials to recycle, and the stagger bar just stays there. So on my last one, I had Odin, obviously with Zantetsuken, with Judgment Bolt and Giga Flare. So basically, it was just all in-game specials I had on my loadout, but I just kept enemies frozen constantly until they recharged. That's pretty much how I killed all the final bosses in the game. I just kept them frozen to where they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I think that might be the exact loadout the person that did 13 Zantetsuken's uses. Maybe the Phoenix Rift shifts got changed to something else, but all the skills were essentially those.
Those are the basic in-game skills that you're going to want to run. If you're not running them, then you aren't doing the Rift Snap combos quite right.
Yeah, for me, I'm still on the experimenting and doing whatever combos I can in the game. It wasn't until the Final Fantasy mode that I took Phoenix off my icon slots, and I was feeling the hurts the entire time because I got just so used to the Phoenix shift as a really good tool to close gaps.
Just teleport to your enemy.
Yeah, exactly. And like DD said, launch an enemy with Torgal and then just shift up to them.
And you can use enemy step is pretty easy to do in this game. I'm surprised. It's like a 3-hit combo, and right as your third hit launches them down, you hit the enemy step to cancel it. So you're still technically hitting them with it to get the star points and the damage, but you're doing the jump cancel, and it brings them up with you. So you just do the 3-hit combo again and cancel with the next one, and then you do the helm splitter with the big AoE.
Yeah, and if you don't have the timing for that, if you have Will of the Wisps on, then the fireballs will negate the fall damage as well, giving you a chance to do the enemy step after a fireball hits them and stops them from falling.
Yeah, it sucks because it's like you can tell when there's the Devil May Cry elements, but it's just like, oh my god, I wish there was more moves that wasn't your icons, but having your icons be so customizable, mixing and matching them when mastered and all this other shit. It's like, you know what? Fine, right? It is an RPG.
So everyone focuses on the Devil May Cry side of it, but the combat designer also worked on Dragon's Dogma. And looking at the trailers of the game, I was expecting a blend between the two instead of it just being one way or the other. So yeah, I kind of got what I expected out of the gameplay on this, like the icon abilities just being like the hold down the trigger to do special moves from Dragon's Dogma. But they're much fancier and more online with what a Devil May Cry special move would be. Kind of helped sell it.
Arc of Obliteration is like the coolest move, bro.
It is, but I'm just saying that
speaking of
16 has a lot of cool moves on like that.
Speaking of Dragon's Dogma, I hope Dragon's Dogma 2 is good, because 1 is not.
1 is also a quarter of a game.
So we gotta talk about side quests, or at least important ones. Like
I hate how every fucking time it's like you go. I'm combining this with pacing. You walk up, you enter this new area. Here's 4 side quests, and it's like I didn't even do anything. I'm in the middle of because like me and Gooch are gonna go fight Bahamut. That's pretty important. I want to see that, but don't you want to do 5 side quests? No. Or it's like, oh, you visiting this old town. Here's 2 more side quests, and it's like, please, I just want to progress without seeing this stupid fucking MMO DNA. The pacing is completely explained away because the devs made an MMO before this, and it's all still there.
Well, I appreciate some of the early game ones, and I appreciate a lot of the later game ones.
Middle of the game, I could not fucking tell you.
The side quests that happen before the pivotal moment, like around Moore, are very dark.
They're very dark.
Yeah, like the
kid with the
Chloe.
Yeah.
That shit was like, ooh, oh goddamn.
I mean, I called it as soon as we started the quest. It's like, the twist is obviously
she's got white hair. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I did that second. I did the wolf quest first, and then that set the tone for what this area was like. So I started that quest, and I'm like,
quest. Oh, yeah.
And it was dark too.
Yeah, so
that was like
running up.
Though. It was good though. It was like, damn, this really is some like real slave shit, bro. God.
Although the resolution of the wolf quest is a little bit like,
here's the problem with the resolution of that wolf quest. It's like it's tied up in a way that's satisfying to you, quote unquote, where it's like, oh, they got their comeuppance because hey, they just took wild animals and tried to train them. Well, this wild animal, fucking ate them, right? And it's like, yeah, they got the comeuppance, but it's just like I feel in this society where it's just like, no, these people just got away with it, and it's just like it would have helped you like build that resentment and anger in Clive and the player. It's just like, oh, here's this father and son duo who just pretend to be attacked by their domesticated animal to watch it hunt slaves for sport. And then you kill their dog and they get mad and then they just fuck off and do it again. And it's just like it powers Clive's resentment and helplessness towards this like whole bear system. Right?
I love how savage Clive gets on the little girl. Like, I mean, he makes that girl feel like
he gives her an existential crisis, and I was so here for it.
Yeah.
He shattered her worldview.
Yeah, I mean, she was like freaking out at the end of that. She's like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize she was, a human, or had parents and stuff." He's like, "Bitch, that was a human. Like, what is wrong with you?"
All right, well, that's basically everything I had to talk about. Because like OST, it's fine, right? It's
good. It's not so good. Best
it's
work.
Better than 15. It's better than 15, and 15 has some good music. Yokoshimura did a good job.
Yeah, I was say 15. I think there were some better songs in 15 than there were in 16, to be honest.
I think the highs of this OST pull it so much for me. Like Find a Flame, Away, Ascension, Titan Lost, all of the big tracks in this OST like really highlights it as being a fantastic OST for me.
It's the same thing for like Final Fantasy 15 with like Apocalypsis Noctis. Like that song's fucking wild, but it's such a good song. But it only happens in like what 2 parts, like literally when it went with Leviathan. So
yeah, and there's a few like roaming themes in 15 that are good, but they don't hit as good for me in 15 as they do here. Like I like all the field themes here. I like all the battle themes are really good. I like the dynamicness of like you're doing a dungeon and then the dungeon music like ramps up when you get into a fight in it.
The problem with the field themes is that for the second half of the game, you can't hear them anymore because they've all been replaced by sad Primogenesis piano.
yeah.
I struggle to remember the identity of some of the like field themes because like I mean hell, I think I was playing the section like not that long ago, but I can't remember what Rosaria's theme is because all I remember is sad piano because the world is ending.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I think I remember the Sanbreque one. That one's really good though.
Yeah, I don't have a list of the side quests in front of me, so I can't really tell you my favorite.
I can remember.
Honestly, probably the girl and the lost cat, because it's just like, oh, that's fucked up. It's good, you know.
Lost Wing had some really interesting ones, like the Akashic taking over, the Aether Flood hits it.
The him trying to track down the judge.
Yeah, there's a few of them that's really good, and that's where the isn't that, if I remember, there was a story before all that. Wasn't it the black shields that showed up there too?
Yeah.
And
it's just
they do.
It was one of the only other times that the black shields show up outside of like the MSQ. So
yeah, generally anything that involves like one of the major side characters, those side quests always end up really good. Like Goot's trying to track down the person that's dragging Charon's name through the mud.
Charon's quest is good.
Yeah. And then I really like everything with Blackthorn, like his existential crises every time he sees something that isn't a blacksmithing item.
I do think it gets a little long in the tooth with Blackthorn towards the end, where it's like, oh, okay, he's being sullen again. Yep. Okay, let's go see what's wrong. But I do agree that. Yeah, I do think that they build to a nice resolution. I do especially like that his like the end of his where he crafts you the ultimate weapon is like, I'm going to use all of these cool techniques from all of the side quests that you've done. I appreciate
I love it when games do that.
I think if I had to name a favorite side quest, it'd be just the one that you do for Otto. I don't even remember exactly what it is that you do, but you find one of Sid's old notes.
Oh yeah, and you give it to him, and he's just.
And you give it to him, and it's just this heartwarming note where Sid's just like, "I'm a little bit drunk. I'm gonna write you a note to be like, thanks, man. You really keep things running around here." And he like tears up and gives you like Sid's old like manky drinking cup.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So like the end game, like the last side quests for all the characters are pretty good. Like Joshua and Clive have the one where they go get the wristband and they go to get their
dad's helmet.
Yeah, their dad's helmet. Also, we've got the one with Jill, you know, and finding the flowers. Yeah. And then even Torgal has one where they go out to the island.
Yeah.
I love the cutscene for the Torgal one.
Yeah, they're the ones at the end on the last home base are fine. They're good. I'm
going to throw it out here because I want to make Kaizer angry. I'm going to throw this one out here because I want to make Kaizer angry. One of the ones that I don't like the resolution of as much, and I'd even go as far to say is a bad resolution, is the mid-side quest. Because her takeaway is that, you know, I really don't want my creations being used for war, so I'm going to build them and then give up on my dream and chuck them into the ravine.
See, now you said you were going to do that to make me angry, but you've just said everything that I would have said about it anyway. Yeah, I agree. Mids is a bad resolution. Her side quest kind of sucks.
Oh my god. And it's just like, woman, we've had to deal with your ass for... honest to God, it feels like a quarter of this game is dedicated just to fucking doing whatever mid tells you.
the side quest with Hippocrates and Dion for the.
Oh, that's another really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of those like personal resolution ones, because pretty much everybody gets one. They're all pretty well done, except for mids.
Yeah, outside of like
Gavs is great. Gavs is great. You know,
Gavs is
and you know what's and you know
Gavs
how
is the one that ends with them both being drunk at the bar, isn't it? And like Gavs going on about something or other.
And then Clive's just like, "You're my."
And Clive's like, Clive's like, "Are you finished?" And he's just like, "Maybe."
Yeah, it's great.
No, but and you know how I know the devs are proud of that Gav one because you can there's like you can tell when the game shifts from like normal gameplay models to the pre-rendered models into the once they start talking drunk and shit. It's like no. The devs are like, yes, this is an important one.
Let's move properly now.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorites that isn't like those character specific ones is just like the little story of Martel's apples. Like you go help this botanist who's like, I sent my assistant to go get this soil and she's not back yet. And the first mission is literally everyone's punching bag of you do this mission and you just pick up dirt. And I'm like, yeah, you just pick up dirt, but the story attached around that is nice.
Is it dirt?
Yeah, and then
soil.
it's like, oh,
they do describe it as being especially pungent,
dark, rich, and fragrant. It can't just be any dirt.
That describes soil to me, not something else.
And yeah, so she and you get back to the hideaway, and it's like, yeah, no, this guy doesn't actually care about me. He like you misinterpreted what the mission was. He just wanted his soil, but I appreciate what you did. And we're going to make these apples, and you'll get first bite when they're like completely ready, and then
he dies.
Yeah, she dies. Both of them die, and someone else picks up the mission, and you do a side quest later, and it's the apples have fully bloomed, and you go around, hand them out to everyone in the curse breakers, and it's just really sweet. And they even name them after her, and then there's a little bit later on. It's not in this side quest specifically, but at some point, Otto mentions... it's a letter you get finishing this side quest. Otto mentions that, yeah, no, everyone hated the original apples at the old hideaway because they tasted like shit, but Sid would eat them no matter what. And we see Sid eating them in multiple cutscenes. And it's just like, yeah, Sid ate them no matter what because it was like a representation of what we're working towards. Like, the apples might be shit now, but they'll become sweet one day.
On principle.
Yeah. And it's a lot of story pushed into go pick up soil.
Look, yeah, I think a good chunk of the side quests do a good job of fleshing out the world, and yeah,
that doesn't change the menial task you have to do during them.
No, that's true, but I think personally I wouldn't be that bothered by the side quests if some of them weren't mandatory for the story,
and also if the game if it wasn't MMO designed, right?
Yeah,
if it wasn't MMO coded.
I thought something was interesting that was because it was basically MSQ, but it was also kind of like side story. But I thought the choices that you had with like choosing Otto or Gav or Talia and Jill were interesting. I kind of wish they would have had. I wish they would have had. I wish they would have had more of that in the game. Just like more decision based stuff. It didn't really affect much, but it was an interesting way to do it.
It was a weird choice, yeah, because that's the only time that something like that happens.
It's nice though, because it's like, oh, you go and because like, oh, just pick up these groceries, right? You can go with Talia and you can have some hot tart, or you can go with Jill and it's just like Jill's just like, we can have like a little picnic here, and then you guys just like, we can like, although like plot wise you're kind of doing something rush, so I just kind of ignore this pacing issues, but it's just like, we don't need to get them back like right now, nothing's stopping us from just sitting down having a little picnic here for an hour, and there's like, yeah, that sounds nice, and they do that, and it's like, see, that's nice, that's cute.
And see, I thought that was...
I totally picked Talia.
Yeah, well, I did all of them, and not because I did it in Final Fantasy mode, but just because I saved before that and was like, I want to see what happens.
Yeah, I still got my saves before both choices. It left there like...
So I decided... Yeah. So that's what I did. And they're all four of their dialogue choices are really great. So
Yeah, and it's weird
I
that
thought that
people
was
are only
interesting.
going to see half of it in like this weird middle section of the game where a lot of people will just either pick one and then continue on and never see the other half of it.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe we should have put in the good side quest in a better part of the game. God fucking damn.
I think really what they should have done is the main story tries too hard to straddle like keeping a lot of the supporting cast members at the hideaway like still partly looped in. Like you still keep having to go back and talk to Otto and Vivian and Tomes and stuff, whereas these people should have just had like running side quests that continued over the course of the game. Like each of them, like 3 quests where some stuff happens. Like Karen's got her thing with someone bad mouthing her. Blackthorn's got his village stuff. Like Gav can have some stuff that develops on the side. And then the main story itself can focus on a tight cast of characters instead of trying to balance all of these supporting people as well, because it just means that you wind up with things like mid happening.
Speaking of mid happening, this game desperately needs more than one main character. Because, like, Clyde's the main character. And it's just like, yes, the game wants you to think Jill's the main character, wants you to think, you know, all these other party members join your party, but they don't. They're not really party members, right? It's like in all the Final Fantasies, it's like, okay, here are your party members.
Yeah.
You know, they each bring their own thing. They operate as a unit. You can see them develop over the course of the game. But in 16, it's like you don't have party members, so it just kind of the side characters falter because of that, and it's like, damn.
Yeah, I feel like there's still a lot they can do with the game. I feel like I feel like they're going to do more with the game. Like I think we'll see DLCs for this game.
That probably
it's been successful enough that it'd be worth doing.
Yeah, I think they will.
Yeah. There's enough there that it's worth fleshing out.
Not only is there's
a lot of
go ahead.
There's a lot of stuff that's still unanswered for the game, like, you know, Leviathan. So many
Leviathan
things.
is a very obvious one.
Well, there's also, and I've only seen a couple of people mention this, but when you're going through East Pool and you're going to Phoenix Gate, you run into
the door.
Dim. There's a door that Clive's like, this door looks important. We'll come back later. And you never go back to that door.
Yep.
So what is behind that door?
Behind that door is our final thoughts and scores.
Behind that door is going to be the DLC Bloody Palace. Which is a mode I desperately wish was in this game, because those trials that DD mentioned where you get to get a taste of all of the fully powered icon abilities, I really liked those, and having an actual Devil May Cry style Bloody Palace would have clicked a lot for me.
Just go play Ultimaniac. Go play Ultimaniac mode, bro. It's in the game.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, that if they're gonna do a Bloody Palace mode, it'll just be accessed from the stone at the hideout.
Yeah, it's technically already in the game. Like you're just replaying levels, but the enemies are like stupid levels of hard. Like guaranteed, you're gonna get killed in like 1 to 2 shots.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited to try out Ultimaniacs mode after I finish the Final Fantasy mode run.
If you always try Hi-Fi Rush, that has an arcade Bloody Palace mode.
I like Hi-Fi Rush a lot, but I've only done that the one playthrough as well.
Do not. Okay, Tally, I've done it. I've played. I like Hi-Fi Rush a lot. That Bloody Palace mode is no fucking joke. Holy shit, that game gives you no fucking time to mess around. Like, you reach the boss before you can even beat like floor 10, and you beat that boss with like maybe 5 seconds left if you're playing really good. And it's just like, how am I supposed to do this?
But yeah, it's a good game. I think we've pretty much talked about everything that can be.
I think we've actually managed to exhaust all the topics.
Yeah, which is
I think just for one final cap-off point, because I'm pretty sure we've mentioned them all throughout, but just like one final, like what is everyone's actual favorite icon fight? Because I think we might be missing Kaizer's and Shinki's favorites.
Titan, definitely. Even with the final phase that doesn't need to be there, Titan is my favorite.
Yeah, that's probably it. That's probably it for me as well. I know Trends is Bahamut, even though she pretty much hates all of them anyway. So
You gotta love what you hate. Yeah, I mentioned. Oh god, actually, I don't count it as an icon fight. It's just my favorite sequence as a game is the Shadow Clive. So I might actually.
I don't even count that as an icon fight. Otherwise, yeah.
So Garuda's was pretty cool.
Garuda's is really cool. Yeah,
I like the fact that if you pay attention when you replay that or just playing it the first time, I was just amazed by like walking around as Ifrit and catching trees on fire just by walking through them. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
You can plow straight through like buildings and stuff as well.
One thing that Final Fantasy XVI does is that it really feels like a game that can only be on PS5 with all of its shit going on. Because a lot of other games, just like, aside from the good loading times, this could just be on a PS4. It just looks horrifically bad.
I'm gonna say it.
What?
This is next gen.
So I might chalk my favorite icon fight up to actually being the Ultima one, just because you get no. You know what? Never mind. I'm taking it back. It's Bahamut.
See,
the hot swapping between Ifrit and Phoenix is too strong.
I feel like the only two answers for that are either Titan or Bahamut.
Yeah, same.
I've already spoken my piece. Hell, I even posted the fucking Destiny and Strike Freedom art in spoiler chat already. It's Bahamut. It's not even close.
And let's try to wrap this up. I'll go through everyone one by one to give like their final thoughts and scores. So Shinky, do you want to get yours out of the way first?
Sure.
Also, sorry. I was about to let you start, but then I also thought, just for prosperity's sake as well, could you also give like Trin's score for this?
I think she was like an 8? Yeah, like an 8. I'm like a 7.5 on this game.
Whole numbers.
Yeah, I agree. Whole numbers. Don't be a coward.
Okay, 6.
No, too far. Other way.
Okay, so I guess I'm like an 8. In all honesty. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy game. But it's not a bad Final Fantasy game. Like out of mainline number games, it's up there. Like I like 8. Like I like 8 more than I do 9. Surprisingly, like everybody's
problems.
Okay.
Everybody's like, "Oh God, I love 9." I'm like,
that's a podcast for another time.
All right,
yeah. We can do this.
That's the podcast where I'll yell racial slurs. Okay, gotcha.
We can do this another time. We can just talk about Final Fantasy in general. That'd be great. But no, it's it has its highs and lows. I think combat is kind of mid. No pun intended, but it is kind of mid. Like once you get to Final Fantasy mode, you're just spamming ultimates. So it's once you get Zantetsuken, it's basically just, I don't got to deal with mobs anymore. I'll just Zantetsuken everything.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to talk about combat. One last thing about combat. You deal with enemies the same exact way. Except for bosses, and even most bosses, you just deal with the exact same way.
You still do it the same way, pretty much. It's just like try to get them to the 1.5 and hit them with Zantetzukens. It's just like that's pretty much it. Story wise, it's actually pretty good. Like I don't know, like I thought the story was best all the way up until Oriflame, and I feel like the story really dropped off. I think Ultima is definitely not my favorite antagonist in the series. He's very far from it.
He has some of the best designs, but like, no.
He's a weird alien, bro.
Yeah, he's very boring.
He's a better weird alien than Zero Mess.
Oh, he's got fantastic design, but
he's like Genova and Zeromus put together, and it's like he has, except he has both their personalities, which is none.
Yeah, and character-wise, I think I like pretty much everybody. I think Sid's my favorite character in the game.
Great.
Yeah, he's great. I feel like the game would have been better if they wouldn't have killed certain characters off so soon. Like I said, Benedicta and Sid dying basically in the first half of the game really killed the rest of the game for me, because everybody's like, "Oh, we're doing this in Sid's memory." I'm like, "Yeah, I wish Sid was here. I don't want his memories." So I don't know. It's a great game. I platinumed it. It didn't take very long to platinum it, but for the most part, it's a good game. I'd recommend playing it.
Yeah, for me, since we're started from Shinki, might as well go from
Bottom up.
Favorite characters, probably Byron and Sid. But how do I think? Yeah, like my thesis statement at the beginning, I wasn't going in expecting this to be my top 3 Final Fantasy, and it wasn't. It's maybe like 5.
It delivered exactly what you expected.
I got what I expected, not necessarily what I wanted, though. Yeah, it'd probably have to be a 7. Do I see myself replaying this soon?
I mean,
yeah, in the beginning, especially once you don't have like any icon abilities, this game was like a 6. But now you actually play around with all your abilities and moves and shit, I'd say it bumped it up to like a 7. It's a really good game. Definitely 7 out of 10 material. Yeah, I can't think of like the low point. Like this story drags, and for a story-based RPG, that's like death sentence for pretty much any other one. I feel like the only reason I kept going is because just like, look, you've shown me some absurdly cool shit before, right? You don't have to like deliver on that constantly, but I don't need all this goddamn dead time in between all the cool shit. So yeah, I feel like the pacing really is what's dragging it down to like a 7.
Yeah, the pacing hurts the game, sure.
And Kaiser?
Yeah, I think it's a game of like dizzying highs and really, really like sewer deep lows for some of it, because some of the characterization, the pacing, like there are just a lot of choices that I don't think are very good. But when it is actually firing on all cylinders, it's like some of the most hype shit I've played in a while, which it kind of mirrors my thoughts on the Endwalker expansion for 14 just most recently, which feels appropriate. And
kind of disappointing that it's appropriate.
It is, yeah. And I think, yeah, on balance, it's good. Like, I think it takes too long to unlock like a good range of abilities. Like, I playing back through Final Fantasy mode and realizing how long it is before you even have 3 icons open
is absurd.
It's crazy that it takes you so long to actually start getting a moveset, especially since the
like basic moveset is not there.
Like a good quarter of the game is just Phoenix.
Yeah. And that is really rough. Even like playing back through it when I have all of the icons like available to play with, like it's still really rough just realizing how much that is. And then you get characters like poor Jill
she could have been so good, because playing this game, it's just like I think she might be as good or better than Tifa, and it's just like no, they just kind of stopped. What the fuck? What is happening here?
Yeah, but then on the other side of that, you also get like fantastic characters like Byron, who has the best scene in the game. He has a couple of the best scenes in the game, and Joshua's like a really good character, and Clive is a great main character, and like
Sid is a fantastic dude.
Sid is absolutely fantastic. All we needed was more of him.
Honestly, like for being just being introduced as just some random side character and has that status for quite a while, Gav is a really good character, and how he comes to his own to be like part of like, the upper echelon cast of like the characters.
He kind of becomes like Clive's right hand man. And,
I mean, he is. That's the whole them drinking. He becomes Sid the Third.
Yeah, and I mean, Gav he's definitely my top 3. I think my top 3 are Sid, Byron, and Gav. Probably that order.
Agreed.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. But I think, to sum it all up and give it a score, I think by modern reviewer standards, I'd probably call this a 7 out of 10. Because I think there are times when it is a 9 out of 10, but there are also times where it is a 5 out of 10.
And that's all fair. Fair and
right,
good. And
say something so I can scream slurs at you.
So, being hypercritical after this entire conversation, thinking back on the game and its issues, I should give it a score of maybe an 8 or a 9, but in my heart, I have to give it a 10 because there's too many things in this game that I just love to bits. Like, even all the things that it does wrong, I just overlook because of this. I haven't brought it up really, but this is essentially like almost to a T what my dream game in game design is. Like, it does combat really well, it does the action stages really well, but then it has those moments of opening up and having like these big fields that you can explore with a lot of the side quests to do. All of the characters are done really well. Like, even side quest characters are written really well. Not every character is done well, because we've just gone over how Jill's done dirty, Benedict is done dirty, and so on. But I can overlook those for all those because I really like all of the strengths that the games has, that the weaknesses don't pull it down for me as hard as it should. And I just really got sucked into this game, like the world of Valosphere and all the characters around it and their stories. I just really, really got sucked into. This is one of the few games that I've played where I just like dug down, put some headphones on so I could fully absorb everything it was doing. And I think that really paid off for me in the long run. Getting spoiled right at the end did take some wind out of the sails, but the ending does kind of land it perfectly. Like, even knowing what was going to happen, it's still really emotional. I'm a bit bitter that because I know for a fact I'm not as emotional over the ending as I would have been if I went into that blind. But it is what it is, essentially. But
it's like when I found out Adachi was the killer in Persona 4. It's just like, well, god damn it.
That takes the mystery out of the mystery game.
So I see a lot of people online that compare this game to obviously Devil May Cry and Tales of Arise. Do you agree with that?
Kind of, in some senses, and not really in other senses. And this game does the slavery story a lot better than Tales of Arise does. Tales of Arise starts pulling its punches and starts being really cowardly by the end of it, where 16 is just like hammers it in. A lot of the side storylines with like Lubor and Martha and all of them are also done really well. Like, not just the characters like Jill and Torgal and Clive and Joshua getting their payoffs, but all of those other side quest characters get really good payoffs on their own as well. But it's just essentially this is like as close to like my perfect game as it could be, where even with all of its faults, I'm just like, no, this is a 10 for me. This is like really, really hitting everything I want.
I'm changing my score. It's going to be a 7. I changed my score because I forgot that the variety of enemies in this game is shit. They are all the same fucking enemies. All the mobs, enemies, they're all the same, and they're all.
And there's a lot of recolors.
And they're all pulled from Final Fantasy XIV.
You know what? Yeah, I did complain about every fight being the same, and I didn't factor that into my score because I'm thinking, well, I was rambling with his insanity, that dirty half sand monkey.
Damn.
I think I might put mine down to a 6 because it's just like, I really like it. I like it a lot, but it's just like, what is a 7 out of 10 game for me? Kingdom Hearts 1. Do I think this game is as good as Kingdom Hearts 1? Not really.
See, this is a type of energy I need to come and counter my energy of being insanely positive on this game. But you know, not
like,
not too harsh. Where I'm looking at people on Twitter like, no, you're just wrong.
No. Some people are whatever, right? But it's like for me, 6 out of 10 is like 5 is average. 5 I can enjoy myself. 6 is good.
Okay.
I can enjoy myself as a 6. That's a good game. I can recommend buying that. Probably on sale, but I can recommend buying a 6. And so it's like, you know, because I just finished Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix the other day. It's like, you know, it's a short 20-hour game, and it's like that's like a 7 for me. Do I think this is as good as Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix? Overall, no, because so I have to give it a 6. And you can blame every fight being the same, and you can blame mid.
Yeah. Okay. Like when I said that before, it was based on like modern review scales, where 7 is where the scale starts. But if we're actually using 5 as the middle, then I agree.
There we go. See, we have to be honest with ourselves.
and that's what I'm doing. I'm like, critically, it should be an 8 or a 9, but in my heart, it is a 10.
You allowed me and Ronan to be honest with ourselves and lower our scores.
Yeah, I also lowered my score. I was like, I'm going straight 7 because
Your blinding praise gave us all realizations.
The enemy, I just forgot how bad the enemy variety is. Like, man, like when I was looking through, I was like, there's like only 2 pages of enemies. Like, what is going on here?
There's
like,
also a severe lack of like iconic enemies. Like, it would be really fun to have like a hunt against a cactuar or something.
No cactuar.
Oh yeah, that's right. There is no cactuar in this game. Wow.
There's no tonberries either.
Also no tonberry.
Wow.
Really...
Maybe this game is a 6.
Something else that's just like, oh, this game doesn't do well is not just enemy variety, but it's just like enemy composition. It's just like there's no.
They also fucked Moogles too.
Yeah, there's just the one. But
we got Nectar.
Yeah, but it's just
Nectar
like,
is all we need. He is the strongest.
It's like this enemy casts protect on the enemy. He does take reduced damage. All right, charge triangle, boom, it's gone. All right, whatever. And it's like this enemy casts heal, and it's just like, oh, this fight's taking long. I guess there's a healer around here somewhere. Die. All right, back to doing the fight. And it's just like, okay, especially at the end where it's Zantetsuken, it's like, okay, equip Zantetsuken, do stinger motion where he does the double slash in front of him, that the enemies are like, ooh, you hit me. And while they're doing that, just charge your dancing steel. You're at Zantetsuken 5. Fight's over.
See, I still get like a good like the dopamine hits every time I do Zantetsuken level 5 because I just think it's insanely funny every time you go into an encounter and just delete it from existing in the game.
Yeah, it's still fun, right? But it's just like every fight, right?
It is the same thing.
Yeah, I think I just come out of it in a you get out as much out of the combat system as you put in, and because I'm constantly shifting my strategies as I'm going, then I'm still getting a lot out of it, even in my Final Fantasy run.
I don't think I grinded like at all in this game, so I will appreciate that. You know, never had a grind.
That's true.
You know, even when I was like, damn, I wish I had more AP, and it's just like, well, I'm not going to grind for it. I don't need to. Grinding sucks. Yeah, and the game never really punished me.
I'll just refund a skill that I'm not using right now.
There you go. It was great.
But yeah, I think we've exhausted everything we need to say about the game now, and we've given our scores. So I think it's about time we wrap this up. Because
all right, cool. We've been talking since 9, so 9, 10, like 11, 12, 4 hours, 2, 3, 4. We've been talking for 7 hours.
Yeah, we're almost at the 7-hour mark exactly. If we want to extend this by 5.5 minutes, I don't think we want to though.
No, I need to get my 2 hours of sleep before I gotta wake up for work.
I'm so sorry. I tried to do this early so you wouldn't have to do that, and then we ended up doing that anyway. Honestly, I might just stay up. No, I'm gonna go to sleep. Fuck this. Because if I stay up and I go into work and I have to be on the phones all day, I'm gonna fall asleep at my desk. But yeah, for anyone that's stuck around so like this entire time, thank you so much for listening to us ramble about this. Apparently mid-game.
Yeah, it's a mid game, and there's mids in the game too.
Yeah, mid is 5.
At some point, this becomes mid's game.
This is mid's game, yes.
I think Saif said it best with, and I'm going to sum up the entire game with it. She's mid, but I like her.
She is mid, but I like her a lot. Yeah, so again, thank you so much for listening to this. Do not normal outro stuff if you like this and you want to hear more ramblings, but not in as long formats. Just give us a like and a follow, and a subscribe. Interact with us on Spotify. Interact with us on YouTube. We're always here. We're always ready to do more content, and hopefully I can convince people like my lovely friends here to do more of these long form spoiler casts. Hopefully not as long though, because this is ridiculous. But
it was a long game and we had thoughts about Jill.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess we'll see you all later. Goodbye.
Later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Final Fantasy XVI Spoilercast. If you've listened to all 3 episodes, thank you so much for your time. It means the world to us. I know this was an exhaustive discussion on the game, but I can promise that future spoilercasts will be managed much better than this one. But until such spoilercasts happen, I hope you've enjoyed listening to our mad ramblings on this game, and I hope you'll come back for more Fast Travel Lounge in the future.